Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SMITE Season 8 update show. I'm Isaiah, your host for today, and today is a special day. We got so much to go over. Got the new Conquest map, all the 8-1 balance, a bunch of new skins and features, and of course, with me to break everything down, I've got my buddies from the design team. I've got Ajax and Pon with me. First of all, how you guys doing?
Good.
Yep, doing well.
All right, well, we have got an absolute ton to go over, so let's go ahead and get right into it. And we're going to start off with the Conquest map. I know we just had the awesome show match where we gave everybody their first look at Season 8 Conquest, but we definitely want to take a little bit of time to go over some of the highlights for Season 8 Conquest. So AJ, I'm going to pass it along to you. What's going on with Conquest? Where are we at? And how did we get there? Kind of set the stage for us.
So this is a brand new map, like the thing we did in Season 5, completely new Conquest map, big change. What you're going to notice first off is the Chaos Base. We can say goodbye to Hades' Skull Castle, RIP for Hades, but it has been replaced by Tiamat's Fortress. Which is really exciting. The Babylonian Pantheon finally coming to Smite, as we saw in the amazing cinematic trailer we had revealed earlier in this event. Absolutely beautiful. We wanted to make the Babylonian launch a really memorable launch. It's a very well-known pantheon, one of the oldest mythologies in the world. And it's been requested for a long time in Smite. So here it is going to be immortalized in the Conquest map, not just in the gods that are going to be arriving in the pantheon, but in the map itself. So really what we are going for is a little bit of a story transition from the year of Cthulhu into the year of Tiamat. Cthulhu was wreaking havoc with our gods. He was stealing their worshippers, driving them insane, turning them against each other. Things were looking bleak. The world was ending. But then Tiamat arrives and uses her powers of creation to reborn the earth. Just remake it. And in that process, she banishes Cthulhu back into the depths or into your queues if you do not ban him.
So you're saying Donsborough wasn't enough?
Donsborough didn't even attempt to stop Donsborough.
For sure. He was just there to chill, drink some sake, and make some money. That was it.
He did hand out some important life lessons to Tsukiyomi, but now we're moving on to the next year, and that is the story. Tiamat has set up her base suspiciously close to Mount Olympus here, just across the Conquest-sized jungle, conveniently, away from Mount Olympus that will still be representing the Order side, but a completely new reconstructed Mount Olympus from scratch, along with a completely new jungle and everything that you're going to see in these patch notes.
For sure. Well, like I said earlier, we're not going to deep dive into it just because we had the awesome show match earlier, but we did just want to hit some highlights here. So we're going to talk about the new layout. Of course, bigger map both ways, right?
We get this request every time we start looking at the Conquest map. People just want the map to be bigger. They want rotations to matter. The map size creates a whole lot of gameplay strategy, and it also gave us a lot of room as a design team to make different types of geometry, different types of jungle path. So really, we were happy to follow along. So the map is wider and longer. We have the jungle completely new. We have a lot of really interesting spaces in the jungle, and when you look at the mini map, you'll recognize it that there are some more specific open areas to fight in, and then there are other areas that are much more narrow pathed, and that's to create a whole lot of variance in the different types of fights and different types of team fights. Depending on the location, you can have a really different experience on this new map. And we're also, of course, going to have new jungle camps and new camps in different locations and just new camps in general.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, brand new map, completely new art set based off of Babylonian pantheon and mythology. It looks super awesome, but we've also got some new NPCs, and I know you were super excited about the new scorpions that have been added to the map. You want to talk about the lesser and greater scorpions really quick?
Yeah, so we have the Chaos side completely rebuilt in a new theme. The whole map is completely rebuilt, but that's a brand new theme. The Order side, Mount Olympus. Order and Chaos Towers are new. Chaos Titan is new. Chaos Minions are new. The Scorpions are our new jungle monster. They have two versions. There's the lesser scorpions and the greater scorpions. We'll talk a little bit more about their mechanics in a minute. And we also have a lot of our favorite jungle monsters from the previous seasons will be reprising their roles. Red buff, purple buff, blue, and speed buff, not yellow buff, obviously. Will be maintaining their art from the previous years.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the scorpions a little bit. Let's start with the lesser scorpions and talk just a little bit about their mechanics.
All right, now we're doing something pretty crazy in this map here, Pon. We're doing a few really interesting objectives added to the map. We're trying to look for ways to layer on some complexity into Conquest. And one way we've done this is through the new lesser scorpions, which are the first jungle camp that spawns inside of lanes. So on the outside of the duo lane and the solo lane, on the outer edge, you will see these lesser scorpion camps that you will actually be able to attempt to take or steal from each other while you're still essentially standing in the same place where you can clear minion waves, right, Pon?
Yep, exactly. They're right next to it. People can fight over them. People can try and burst them down, but be careful if you try and burst them down while the opponent's around. They might try and sneak it from you if they're so inclined.
So these provide golden experience when killed, but they also have some additional new rules which are very interesting. The first of which is when their health bar is depleted, they are not immediately slain. They go into a down state where they have to require a certain number of individual hits to finish them off. So this is to add even a little bit more attention and strategy behind who's going to secure the camp. They also provide a localized healing buff to the team that slays them. So if you do capture them, it is a way to regen a little bit of HP, which kind of contrasts nicely with the way like the totem can restore mana. So those are the lane scorpions, the lesser scorpions.
Yep.
But we also
let's
have
talk about the big boys.
Oh yeah. These spawn in the jungle, and they have a lot of interesting mechanics working with them. So at the beginning of the match, they will spawn in the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant pit. And these monsters have one major new feature, which is they are our first jungle camp that changes its spawn location. So when they will first spawn in the Gold Fury and Fire Giant pit. At the time they are slain, is when the Gold Fury and Fire Giant can spawn. If you have to kill these before you can get the bigger bosses to spawn, once they are killed, they will actually relocate to a different spawn point, which is really interesting. And if you kill them, you'll get some experience in gold, but you'll also get a bigger bonus, which is the jungle camps on your side of the map will drop even stronger buffs after you kill these scorpions. So
this is
a lot of
super
interesting details here.
Yeah, I know. Something that we've never done before. I'm definitely looking forward to how people can test these new greater scorpions in the jungle and how it's going to sway the tide of the game there. But another thing that we've never done before that I definitely want to talk about are the all new base gates and Conquest. AJ, what's going on with these new gates on the outside of all the bases?
So this is our first dynamic geometry. This is something that people have been asking for years, and we're really excited to try it. And it's something we're planning on experimenting, and paying attention to throughout the year. We are adding gates to the bases. So when you are in your order or chaos base and you're leaving the base, you will be able to walk out of a gate that opens and closes. It's actually it's a blocking area until you walk through it, and then it opens up. It has a opening pad on the interior side of the gates that you have to step on to walk out. So if you walk outside, you are trapped outside when the door shuts behind you. Now, this has a lot of interesting twists and turns to this mechanic. So specifically, we wanted this to be, one, a much more convenient way to get from your base to different parts of the map. It feels so good, Pon. You're my jungler. Tell me how good this feels when you're leaving the base.
Yeah, I mean, even in live, when I am running around, because I've been playing on this map for a while, I actually try to run to the gate area because it's just so convenient to get to your speed buff. It's so convenient to potentially rotate to the other lanes. It's just such a nice path to have that I don't know what I was doing without it before.
So that's the first purpose of these gates. Now, the second purpose of these gates is to add a really interesting twist on Phoenix and base sieges.
Mhm.
So if you're a defender or an attacker, you can now utilize these gates as a way to attack the team in other ways. If you're defending, you can flank this other team as they're attacking a Phoenix more easily by going through the doors, but you need to be careful or you might not be able to go back in the way you came from unless your teammate is there to open the door for you. If you're a attacker, you can camp outside those gates and see if anyone wants to open the door to try to take a look. And when the door is open, go ahead and flood their base and actually get into the Titan and Fountain area without killing any Phoenixes or taking any Phoenix damage. And we've taken this even one step further. Those doors are not that thick, so they can be leapt over or blinked or teleported over. So actually, as an invader, you can leap over the door and step on the pad to open the gate for your team to flood in. There will be penalties applied to people who enemies who invade the gate in this way. There's going to be a debuff area. The Invader's Curse that will slow you and debuff you in other ways, but it is a really interesting risk-reward way to attack the base in a whole new way.
Definitely looking forward to this. I know you guys have been having a ton of fun with this new mechanic. AJ's been going off the walls about it. Super excited to have this in the Season 8 Conquest map. But I think the thing that I am most excited for is something that we may not have talked about a little bit earlier. And I know AJ has been pushing for this for a long time. It's the idea of a living, breathing Conquest map. AJ, break this down for me and tell me what we're going to be doing this season.
So this is probably the coolest feature of the whole map, and that's that it's a feature that we haven't implemented yet. It's the future. Conquest, we get a new map in Conquest 8.1, and in the history of Smite, we would get a new map every now and then, right? You got a new map in 5.1, and then years before that in 2, 3, and 4. So it was a long time between maps. We are changing our process a little bit here, where this year we are committed to updating the Conquest map 3 more times throughout the year. Now, these are not going to be full map overhauls, but we are going to take the 8.1 brand new map and we are going to make thematic art and design changes to it that introduce new gameplay, introduce new artistic changes to the map, and we're going to do that throughout the year. Each of these updates is going to have a specific theme that is tied to the Smite storyline and to the gods that are launching around the time that the Conquest updates are launching. And each update is going to bring a different experience. And, I can't give away too much about what we're going to do at each update, but we're going to be investigating things like changing geometry, changing paths. We're going to be looking into new objectives, something like our expanding the functionality of the Scorpions or the base gates and doing things like that. So throughout the year, instead of just wondering when we're going to make a map in the future or wondering maybe we'll get some changes at mid-season, we're telling you right now that we're going to see artistic and gameplay changes to the Conquest map specifically multiple times throughout the year. And then, of course, that is in addition to balance, which we'll do to the map. We'll be adjusting numbers, health values, damage values, and stuff like that. Golden experience. We'll still do that on a every update basis. But at those quarterly updates, more changes to Conquest.
Super exciting. All my theory crafters out there, go back in the VOD and take a screenshot of that teaser image and start making your predictions. It's going to be super awesome.
Yep.
But another thing that's super awesome, as we move away from Conquest, but still Conquest related, some of the new player experience updates that we've got going on. And the first one is actually going to be a new feature in Season 8, the Conquest Guided System. And I'm going to leave it to AJ again. Take it away.
Don't worry, Pon took lead on the balance and the items, so he'll be leading for the rest of the meeting or the rest of the
25 pages to go through. See how that goes.
This is part of our commitment to Conquest, but it expands a little beyond that. It is for new players in general, but it's not just for new players. This is something that we wanted to add for a long time. Better ways to learn the Conquest map. There's no better time to learn Conquest than when it's a brand new map because everyone is learning together. You're not going to be that far behind. There's a lot of different things to learn. So even the people who are Conquest veterans will be taking the time to learn the map. Now, what we're adding is a new system called the Conquest Role Guides. This is a new type of tutorial, completely unlike anything you've seen in Smite before. What it does is will match up with your assigned role from the match lobby, which you'll now be able to trade with other players. We'll get to in a second. And when you load into the map, it will actually show you sort of quest waypoints in the world space to guide you to your starting jungle camp, to your proper lane, and to the your jungle camps nearby your lane when they respawn, as well as towards objectives like the tower and the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant as the game goes on. So this isn't a tutorial where you're just like sitting in a sandbox just waiting for step by step and like, okay, I press W, now do the next thing. This is actually a guided system that overlays on top of PvP matches. So you can turn this on optionally when you're playing Conquest against other players or when you're playing Conquest in co-op mode. So players who want to learn Conquest, you can turn this on during co-op mode to get just a feel for it. And this system is designed to be helpful and give you extra information that you could already get from your minimap, or you could already know from watching pros or watching streamers or just from playing the game a lot. But it gives you some extra reminders for these things. And that's going to be a great way for new players to learn. And we're also going to be able to update this throughout the year. So we can try to have every update reprogram the system so that it shows you exactly where to go at the beginning of the game to match like each meta start throughout the year. We might be a little behind the pro meta, those big brains coming up with new strategies all the time, but we'll be constantly upgrading this throughout the year and making sure that it's an accurate experience to follow through on.
For sure. This is super exciting. And again, like you said earlier, it's something that players have been asking for a long time, just an easier entry point into Conquest. And starting off on Season 8 with a brand new map is a perfect opportunity for this. And you touched on a little bit earlier about trading roles, but we've also got some match lobby changes coming in. What's going on with those?
So now you'll be able to trade your assigned role in the lobby just like you would offer a god trade in Assault or Ranked. There will be a UI element that pops up, and the player you were trying to initiate the trade with can choose to accept or decline it. We have some additional rules in there to make sure there's no spamming and stuff like that, but you'll want to make sure you get your actual roles sorted out in the lobby instead of just doing it verbally. That is going to be a lot easier for console players, and it's going to be better for our data tracking and for if you're using the role system and the recommended item system and other things like that that are now going to be working more smartly off of role. You're going to want to actually trade your role instead of just say you're going to trade roles. We're also adding some other things to the match lobby and to elsewhere in the game to help new players find existing tutorial features. So we had some videos in the game already that are really helpful. Now you'll be able to access those easier when you're browsing your game modes. We also have all of these new systems to help new players, like the role guides, as well as the recommended item updates, and we're doing a lot of other changes to things like the help tips, which are these pop-ups that will tell you what things are as you walk around the map. A lot of those are being updated, so we added a new button in the match lobby called Guides, where you can click that and kind of toggle on or off the different type of new player help features right there after you lock your god. So maybe if you get a role you're not used to, you can go, okay, Guides on. Like, okay, I play my role all the time, I can turn it back off. You can also turn it on or off in the middle of the match. So just trying to make the whole thing a lot more user-friendly and trying to help players learn the game without sticking them in some boring like step-by-step sandbox, right? This is ways like that we can give you a little bit of extra information as you're actually playing Smite.
For sure. All right, and then last but not least, you kind of touched on it, but recommended items. We're making changes to the recommended item systems to tie that into the new kind of role overhaul that we're doing. And recommended items are going to be tied to your role now.
Well, there's a few big changes here to talk about with recommended items. One that's funny is we changed recommended items to be more data-driven last year. And ironically enough, that caused players to actually lose a bit of trust in the system. Because Smite players play heavily off of word of mouth. They play off expectations. We're following Weekend's build site. There's a lot of pros out there, Final K's guides. But the stat system wasn't necessarily showing the same type of items we would expect. So what we have done here is made a couple changes. One is that your recommended items will now change much more intensely based on the role that you had assigned to you in the lobby. So Chang'e Jungle is going to get a very different recommendation than Chang'e Solo, which was something that previously wasn't accounted for very well. We are also going to be changing our data. So it's still going to be data driven, but we're going to be changing the data system to work a lot more off of more popular items. So we really want the builds that people see from the recommended items to match the more expected meta builds. When we were going just off of stats, we would get a lot of strange builds off of players who were doing more unique things, right? So essentially we just opened up the data set there to get something that players are going to expect. It's going to be a lot better for new players. And then the other big change is we're now allowing you to enable and disable the auto buy system mid-match. Previously, once you turn that off, it was off for the whole game. But now you can toggle it on or off. So say you had a build you liked, pre-saved, but it didn't have any anti-heal in it. So you can turn it off, buy that Divine Rune, and then turn it back on, and it'll just continue down the priority list of what you set. So that's a really nice user quality of life feature. Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for some of the kind of the new player systems and guides and stuff like that. Pon, it's your time to shine. We are moving
it's my turn to
on
talk.
to balance. And we're going to kick things off with starter items. So as you guys may have heard, we're overhauling the starter item system in Season 8. And I will pass it along to Pon to give us an overview of what's going to be happening.
Yeah, so something that's really exciting is we're actually bringing starter items back. Blessings have previously been here, and they actually served a pretty good role of kind of teaching you what a role could be, right? Like, you got the jungle one, it caused you to kill jungle monsters, but it removed a lot of the flexibility players had previously when they could build their starter items. Like, a Bluestone Wukong was very different from, like, a Death Toll Wukong, where you could use a lot of poke versus actually trying to get in there and brawl. And so now all these starter items are coming back to kind of reintroduce that depth that you can have when you want to pick your character the way you want to at the start of the game. With this, there's going to be 16 new starter items. So when you pick one at the start of the game, you can just pick it up. That's your starter that you'll have for that game. Once you leave the base with it, that'll be the only starter you can pick that game. But at level 20 or 17, if you're getting a support starter item, you can actually upgrade them to one of 2 unique tier 3 upgrades. So let's say you pick Death Toll, for example. You can upgrade that to kind of a level 20 version of what a Death Toll could be if it was made as a tier 3 item. Or you can get one of the upgrades that drastically pivots what that item does and its effect to do some really kind of wacky things with it. We're pretty excited to see what people actually do with this, but these tier 3 kind of starter decisions, you have to make a decision at the start of the game, how you're going to want to play. And also that decision that you make at the start of the game is going to affect how you build at the very end of the game. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with this. And when we go into the items, you'll kind of see some of these different effects.
For sure. I'm super excited. This is definitely going to open up build versatility and just all sorts of crazy new strategies and ways to play a certain god depending on how you upgrade your starter item. But let's go ahead and get into the items themselves. And we're going to group these by role here. So let's start off with carry starter items and start off with one that may be a little bit familiar for some of the OGs out there. We've got Death's Toll up first, and this is going to be kind of your standard starter item. Pon, talk to me about Death's Toll and what this item is.
Yeah, and one thing to mention too is we are dividing this into sections of like carry, but these are not class locked. This is not only hunter items. Anyone can build any of these items as long as it fits within the normal class restrictions. So if it has only magical power on it, only mages and guardians can build it. But otherwise, it's completely open. You could build this in the solo lane if you wanted to.
You know Osiris is going to be trying this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Death Toll, Bellona, Osiris, those type of characters. So this one is...
And another note before you get started, Pon, we're not going to go into all the nitty-gritty with cost and power and stuff like that. Patch notes are live on the site right now. So if you guys want to follow along and get all those details, you are able to do so. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead, Pon.
No, that's good. I'm glad we mentioned it because we want to give people a good idea about what the goal of each item is, what type of roles we expect it in, and what types of decisions you get to make about the updates. But we don't want to have to list out long list of numbers. So we're just going to kind of give you the core idea of each starter items and each of their updates. And then, but please, if you're more interested in the details, go check that out on the patch notes.
Exactly. So Death Toll is the kind of the standard carry starter. This is the one that you're going to pick if you want a little bit of sustain and boxing power in the early laning phase. When you hit basic attacks, you restore health. At level 20, this just gets amped up to level 20. It gets a lot more power. The heal gets much more intense. So you can actually use this to really sustain yourself in the late game. Or you can pivot to be more offensive, where Death's Temper wants you to actually slay enemies to get a stacking basic attack bonus. So if you want to be very offensive, get those big damaging basic attacks because you don't need the sustain anymore, you can transition towards that kind of build.
For sure. This one is kind of standard, like you said, but I'm definitely liking already. I'm seeing the kind of standard upgrade versus wow, what is that one going to do? So let's go on to our next one, Gilded Arrow. And this one's going to be kind of a more farming focused starter item.
I've been loving this
so
one.
Yeah, this has been the favorite for a lot of the players who really want to last hit. This is if you can actually last hit, you can get a little bit extra gold and mana and movement speed for each last hit, as long as you are last hitting the target that it marks. So it'll mark a bounty from targets around you, and if you successfully last hit it, you actually get some rewards for it. And if you actually upgrade this to Diamond Arrow, it removes the restriction on the bounty target. It can be any target that you slay will give you a pretty big attack speed stim, some mana, and some extra gold to go along with it. Now, if you just want the more raw stats and you want to be more offensive, you can actually go with Ornate Arrow, which completely changes the functionality. It gives you bonus gold generation, and for the amount of gold that you keep on your person, so you keep unspent, you actually get critical strike chance and a huge boost of attack speed. So this is if you want to hold on to like 2.5k gold to get a lot more of these stats, you don't have to get the 3k elixir, but you're foregoing the 3k elixir. So a lot of interesting decisions there.
For sure, that one sounds spicy. Let's move on to the next one. We've got Leather Cow. What's going on with this one, Fawn?
This is the utility carry starter item. So this one is focused more about helping your team. So the normal one is Leather Cow gives you some power and lifesteal. And when you're alone, you get more movement speed to kind of get to a fight. And when you're with an ally, you get attack speed to help you fight with that ally. You can upgrade to Hunter's Cow, which turns that attack speed into an aura attack speed. So your whole team gets attack speed while you're around them. Or you can change to Leader's Cow, which turns you into the shot caller. You move your team around and tell them to stick with you, because if you find a target alone, or you fight maybe Fire Giant, who's an alone target with your whole team, you give them all a huge power stim as long as you outnumber them. If the enemy team is even in number with you, not as good. So you have to like isolate targets and be the shot caller for your team.
So as you can see, a lot of these items have a lot of new effects. They have a lot of things you're used to, a lot of throwbacks, but we've only looked at a few items so far, and we've already seen the first type of item that extra rewards for last hits, the first type of item that converts unspent gold to stats, which is a really interesting late game choice. The only item that tracks the number of enemies versus allies and compares them against each other and gives you different types of effects whether or not you're close to people. So we're seeing a lot of interesting and unique mechanics throughout all of these starter items. So you're going to see some of your old favorites like Death's Toll that you understand the the pretty simple details of, but make sure you double check and check out these upgrades, because there is some very interesting stuff here, and a lot of this stuff can be applied to a lot of different gods. So we're going to see it's going to be really interesting when this launches, seeing who's going to be picking up what on what type of gods.
All right, moving right along from Leather Cow, we're going to start looking at some of the solo focused starter items. First one up, we got Warrior's Axe. What's going on with this one?
So Warrior's Blessing is one of those items that we actually iterated quite a lot in Season 7. So this is the throwback to that. This is the kind of standard thing that you pick up if you want to like brawl your opponent. When you hit them, you steal some health from them. You get some defenses to stay in lane. Just an overall solid choice. You can upgrade this to Sundering Axe to turn that extra health steal into a percentage health steal for the late game. So if you want to box your opponent and get a big burst of health and steal it from them, that's a choice that you can go. Or if you want to be the hero for your team, if you want to save everyone, you can get Hero's Axe, which makes your health pool a resource to defend your team. So if they ever get CC'd, they actually get a shield based off your maximum amount of health. So if you're building tanky, if you're the frontliner, you can provide a pretty big shield to anyone who gets CC'd around you.
Solo laners peeling instead of diving? What smite are you playing, Pon Pon?
I know, right?
Everyone's playing Sending Axe, I already know. It's fine.
All right, next up, we got another familiar name for the OGs out there, Bluestone Pendant. And this one's going to be a little bit more aggressive. Let's go.
Bluestone.
Yep, Bluestone's back. If you like Bluestone Wukong, that's the start for you. It's basically, as you remember it, it has some HP 5 on it, it has some MP 5 for some sustain in lane, but it also has when you hit with an ability, you apply a damage over time to targets. Really good for clear, really good for poke. You can upgrade this to level 20 for Bluestone Brooch, which is a current health dot rather than just a flat dot. So this turns it into a very offensive item. You can really shred target's health at the start of a fight, or you can completely change it to Corrupted Bluestone, which takes that dot, makes it a more of a debuffing dot, so it actually lowers their attack speed. But for every target that you have applied, you basically get a big boost of attack speed up to 75%. So this item can potentially provide you 75% attack speed, which is very different and not what you would think you'd want on an ability user. So lots of interesting decisions there, and like different characters that could make use of this.
That's a great example, because this was a solo item in in its core, but we have an upgrade that allows it to flex to some hunters, right, or even some assassins. So
Yes.
if you like that early lane clear bonus ability damage, but you still value that attack speed late game, this could be an item for you.
For
Yeah,
sure.
solo collie. You can clear a little bit now, and late game you can just be a chainsaw.
Oh, don't give them any ideas, Pawn. We're moving on. Next up, we've got Warding Sigil. This is going to be kind of a magical protection starter item for solo laners.
Yep. So this is kind of a counter pickup item if you want to go that direction. If you feel like that matchup is something that you really need to handle, it'll actually provide some magical protection. And when you're hit by abilities, you get flat damage reduction. So also this will take minion damage down. So if you want to brawl with that magical solo laner, or you're really worried about magical damage, you can pick this up.
Shout out to Mark of the Vanguard.
Yep, Mark of the Vanguard style effect. You can upgrade it to Sigil the Old Guard, which actually turns it into a % damage reduction. So late game, you can really mitigate a lot of damage with this. Or you can completely turn that defense into offense with Infused Sigil. If you can eat enough abilities, you actually will charge up the item itself, and it'll explode for magical damage to targets around you. And this can happen any number of times over a fight as long as you're hit by enough abilities. So this encourages you to really just dive deep into the enemy line and just fight.
This
Now
is
we're
your dive
talking
item.
solo lane.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we're going to move to the mid lane, guys. Vampiric Shroud up next. Another familiar name.
Yep. A lot of these are just familiar names with people that like a lot of old memories. I remember this from season 0, like in the preseason. Vamp Shroud DT Freya was like my go-to. But yeah, so this one will restore health and mana when your abilities deal damage. It provides also a little bit of protections and lifesteal and health. So this is the very defensive-oriented start. If you're worried about maybe Assassin Genki, this is a choice that you can go. You can upgrade it to Blood Soaked Shroud, which again just amps up that health and mana restore even more, but also gives you a basically infinitely stacking lifesteal bonus when you hit abilities. As long as you can keep hitting targets, you can keep stacking up this lifesteal. Obviously, caps are still present, but you can get a lot of lifesteal from this item. And then finally, you can just completely change it, turn it to not defensive, sacrifice your own health with Sacrificial Shroud. Your abilities will deal some more damage, but each of your abilities will now cost a portion of your health. So you have to be really careful with this to make sure you don't kill yourself with this item, essentially.
For sure.
Those are some metal names and some metal effects, Ponron.
I know,
Yes.
right? All right, let's move things down and chill out a little bit with Sands of Time. This is going to be our cooldown focused mid starter.
Yeah, we'll
item.
see how chill people are after they read the last one. But
Not chill.
We'll get there. So Sands of Time, another familiar starter. This is you get some cooldown reduction and some mana per 5 that increases as you get lower and lower in mana. You can upgrade this to Pendulum of Ages, which turns the passive just up a ton, as well as gives you extra power based off how much mana you currently have. So when you're at full mana, you deal more damage. When you're lower mana, you restore mana. And it can be up to 160 magical power, just for an example of how much that it is. Or you can just completely change it, get rid of the MP5, and go with the alternate timeline. This item is, when you would die, there's an alternate timeline where you didn't die, so you just go to that one instead. This will revive you after a brief delay, giving you some health back with a very long internal cooldown. So you can kind of see the level of spice with the alternate timeline.
For sure.
Khepri alt on an item.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's nuts.
Make sure to burst them right when they revive, so that the alternate timeline wasn't too fruitful for them.
Yeah.
This one certainly has a large amount of balance levers in place, and definitely something we'll be looking forward to PTS testing on.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Please PTS test this one in particular.
All right, next up we've got Conduit Gem, the last one that we've got kind of grouped up as the mid category.
Yep, so this is the kind of aggressive one. It doesn't have as much sustain as Vampiric Shroud. It doesn't have as much mana regen as Sands of Time. But what it does make for is in damage. It has a pretty high amount of magical power, and it has the stack that accumulates over time that you can consume when you hit with an ability to deal a burst of true damage on target. So this can be used to help you clear a wave, can be used to help you poke the enemy god, and just overall is more aggressive in nature. You can upgrade it to Archmage's Gem, which just turns that bonus true damage into a magical power scaling component. So think Raw Ultimate with 50% extra power, magical power proc on it. You can get an idea of like how much burst it's going to provide. As well as Gem of Focus, which is if you can actually keep casting and keep focused on the game long enough to like keep just making sure to keep the stack up, you actually get some movement speed, some damage bonus, and some damage reduction. So just, you have to keep casting, otherwise you lose it. But if you can, you get a lot of benefit from it.
Now I like this one, Pon Pon, because this was a play style we kind of lost with a lot of our newer starter items. We
Mhm.
went to the more equalized bonus damage, or a lot of mages tend to start with sustain in some form, or
Right.
instead of the bonus damage. This is the one that really lets you specifically have a lot of agency over doing a really hard hitting ability at certain times. So this is something we used to see maybe back in the old days on Scylla, so she could really make that crush hit even
Mhm.
harder. So I'm really interested to see what types of gods, now that we have a bigger god roster, what types of gods end up picking up an item like this, because it's a really interesting, contrasting, aggressive style with Sands of Time. So we'll
Yep.
see.
Definitely. All right. Well, that wraps it up for mid starter items. Let's move on to the jungle guys. And the first one that we've got up is Boomba's Dagger. What's going on with this one?
Yeah, this is the old reliable of jugglers. It's going to look very familiar, but it has those upgrades to really change the late game playstyle. This is you do some bonus damage to jungle camps, and when you defeat jungle camps, you actually get some sustain, which makes sure that you can stay alive. And especially with our more aggressive junglers that we added in Season 7 and these new scorpions you have to fight, that sustain is going to be very valuable. Now you can upgrade to Bumba Spear, which just amps up that bonus damage even more and makes it work on jungle bosses and structures. So you can actually turn your kind of like utility in clearing jungle camps into a more late game effect with some power to support that. Or you can go with Bumba's Hammer, which encourages ability and basic attack weaving, which most assassins do naturally. When you use an ability, your next basic attack is going to do some bonus true damage. And when that bonus true damage hits, your abilities will be reduced all by 1 second. So if you are good at weaving all your abilities in, you can get a lot of benefit out of this, and we'll see if people can really make the most use of this.
For sure. Well, that one was kind of ability focused, but the next one is Eye of the Jungle, and this one is attack speed focused.
Yep, so Eye of the Jungle is a completely different way that you can start the jungle. Some characters will leverage the attack speed a bit better, but it has some bonus damage to help you slay some jungle monsters. And when you slay any jungle monster, rather than sustaining some health back, you actually place a ward where they died. So you can actually ward the different camps around the map. And also, if you invade, you can ward on their side of the map and see that they actually, if you want to like add the extra level of BM, you can actually see when they went to the camp, saw it was taken, and you can see the despair happen. So a lot of control over the jungle is what this item's focused on. And then at level 20, you can turn it into Seer of the Jungle, which is when you slay a large jungle monster, you get the ability to see wards temporarily. So you can provide that utility to your team, especially around Fire Giant. You can kill something, go to Fire Giant, and potentially get rid of a ward without a sentry ward being placed. Or you can get Protector of the Jungle, which means if anyone's fighting you on your turf, the jungle, they're going to have to deal with you having more power and protections for being there.
Pon Pon, this is a support item, not a jungle item.
Nah.
Junglers aren't going to buy
on
wards. Junglers aren't going to buy wards, even if you hide it on a jungle item.
No, they don't buy wards. It automatically places one. It's just free. It's free wards.
There you go.
It's really cool to see play around wards like this. This is very new. I'm really excited.
For sure. All right. This one is going to be a spicy one for all of our OGs. We're bringing back Mannequin Scepter. Shout outs to everybody who knows where that came from. But I'll let Pon take it away for this one.
Yeah, if you remember Mannequin Scepter, it was never in live. I think it only ever got to PTS. It was very strong. This is a new version of it with some of the stats changed to make it more reasonable. But it's also going to be a jungler item, the more aggressive jungler item. So this one is, when you hit a target with a basic attack, you actually apply a damage over time that reduces their attack speed and burns them for damage. If you hit jungle monsters with this, though, they take bonus damage from it. So they take, I think, 2.5x the damage from this. So you can really burn through your jungle objectives really quickly. Or when you gank, you can provide this extra dot that actually burns down your target. But this item doesn't have any sustain, so you got to be really quick with actually killing targets with this. At level 20, you can upgrade it to Mannequin's Mace or Mannequin's Hidden Blade. So Mannequin's Mace is the dot becomes incredibly strong. That does even more damage, as well as does quadruple damage to jungle bosses and jungle monsters. So if you want to take down Gold Fury fast, you want to take down Fire Giant fast, this is the item to go to. Or you can go to Mannequin Hidden Blade, which is actually a out of combat burst. So if you haven't been damaged or haven't taken damage, you will in like about a 5-second window, and you hit a target first, you're going to chunk them for a percentage of their health and slow them for a long time. So this is your ability to kind of like jump on a target and surprise them with a lot of burst.
For sure. Well, that wraps it up for the jungle starter items. And quick note on these, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, these are only available in Conquest, correct?
Yes, because they have a lot of interactions with killing jungle monsters, which aren't as available or as accessible on other maps. So these will only be available in Conquest.
Cool. All right, well, let's move on to some of the support starter items here. We've got Sentinel's Gift up first.
Yeah, so Sentinel's Gift, it's a throwback to Watcher's Gift if you're familiar with that item. So when you get an assist, you will restore some health and mana and get some bonus gold. So you want to be around targets who are slaying monsters so that you can get that sustain as well as that extra gold. You can upgrade this at level 17. So all the other items up to this point have been level 20. But for these support ones, supports generally lag a little bit behind in levels. We want to make sure that they're getting this at around the same time. So level 17 instead. If you get to 17, you can get Sentinel's Boon, which turns this into a % health restore. So when you're sieging a Phoenix, you can really boost your health back up and provides even more gold. Or you can go to Sentinel's Embrace, which lets you leverage aura protections in a unique way. It's 120 protections split evenly among all targets. So if you're alone, you only get 60. But if you're with another person, you give that person 60 as well. If you're around 3 people, you're going to split it 4 ways between yourself and all of them. So the 120 will be split evenly between all of them. So you can either spike a single target by being alone with them with a lot of protections, or spread out a pretty considerable amount of protections to your whole team.
Nice, that's awesome. All right, next up we've got Benevolence, which is going to be kind of a tactical support item, which is cool. What's going on with this one?
Yeah, this one requires you to do a little bit of math and planning and really being strategic with your team. This provides some passive gold and XP, which sounds scary on paper, but a portion of all experience and gold you gain is just kind of lost to the ether. You get only 90% value from slaying jungle monsters or slaying minions or slaying enemy gods. If you are around an ally, however, that 10% that would normally get lost to the ether actually goes to them instead. So you can kind of power farm someone in particular. So this kind of encourages you to go lane to lane, powering up whoever you want. And the rotation that normally would lose you farm, you're actually getting some passive gold. So it'll be interesting to see how people leverage this item compared to Sentinel's Gift. But at level 17, it can be evolved into Compassion, which will actually absorb a portion of damage from anyone around you that gets hit. So if your teammate's getting spiked by that Kraken, a portion of the Kraken will actually go to you instead of that target. We've seen some people in playtests want to be compassionate, realize that they're getting blown up very, very quickly for absorbing damage for their team, and suddenly they don't want to be as compassionate. So
For sure.
it's very I'm curious to see what character will make use of this, as well as Animosity, which just completely takes this more support-focused item and turns it on its head. Your basic attacks are going to deal extra damage based off your maximum health. So if you have a big health pool, your basic attacks are going to chunk, and they're going to deal double damage of that % health to structures. So you'll be able to take down structures rather than trying to zone. You can actually take down that Phoenix kind of on your own, as long as minions are there to help protect from the back door.
Some really
Nice.
unique effects here. And what we've been seeing a lot in our testing is Sentinel's Gift gives you that sustain and a lot of ways to get that pressure, especially in the early game. But Benevolence ends up with your team or your duo lane being a little higher level. So it's really like, do you want to go all in on the early game, or do you want to take a little bit of an investment strategy? And we've seen both be really successful. So I'm really interested to see. I have a feeling that pro players are really going to gravitate towards the Benevolence tree instead of the Sentinel's Gift tree. But I'm interested to see how the player base as a whole reacts to these. But we still have one more support tree to introduce.
I know. Let's get right to it. We've got War Flag, which is going to be the last one kind of in this supports group for starter items. What's going on with War Flag?
Yeah, so this one's the more aggressive support starter item, which can make some good use in Conquest, but this is a old kind of arena familiar starter item that had a lot of use there because you're constantly fighting with your team. Getting an assist will restore health and mana to all nearby allies. So kind of like Sentinel's Gift, but for everyone, as well as boost their movement speed and attack speed temporarily. So off a full minion wave clear, you can actually leverage that attack speed and movement speed to be really aggressive against your opponent. You can upgrade this to War Banner, which will actually just amp up all the effects, more health restored to everyone, more movement speed, more attack speed. Or you can go with Spartan's Flag, which makes you kind of the shot caller of here's where we go. You can, when you damage an enemy, you'll drop a Spartan Flag at that location, and that location has an aura that will provide power to all allies who stand near it. And the duration of the Spartan Flag and the internal cooldown of the item is the same. So you can only ever have one at a time, but you get to basically be like, we're fighting here, stand here to get some power.
For sure. All right. Well, that wraps it up for support, but we've got one more, which is kind of just like a neutral starter item that could be good for, no matter what role or class that you're playing. And that one's going to be Tainted Steel.
Yep. So Tainted Steel is a neutral starter. This is the kind of anti-heal starter. If you're concerned about healing out the gate because maybe your direct lane opponent is going to have a lot of sustain, or that there's just going to be a lot of sustain in that game in general, you can go Tainted Steel. And when you hit targets with abilities, you apply a kind of minor anti-heal to them. So pretty straightforward starter. The upgrades change things a little bit more. Tainted Breastplate is when your enemies are hit by your damage abilities, they have your healing reduced by a more significant amount. So this can help synergize with other anti-heal on your team. Or a Tainted Amulet, which enemies hit by your damage abilities have their healing reduced by less than Breastplate, but any healing that's reduced that way is instead siphoned to you. So you can actually take that healing for yourself.
All right. Well, speaking of healing, we've got
Oh yeah.
our next balance section here. We've got some new healing rules that are going to be coming in season 8. And I know healing has been the talk of the town for the last few weeks on social media, Twitter, Reddit, everywhere. And we've been seeing all the conversation that have been going on. So
Yeah.
I'll pass along to AJ to kind of further explain what's going to be happening.
So healing is something we've been paying attention closely to in Smite for many years. The rules of the anti-healing and the gods that are strong healers and their balance back and forth between them is something that's a big part of our balance initiatives. Now, what we've seen recently is healing gods being higher in the meta than ever before, really. And what's interesting about this is that healers have always been really, really good in Smite. Like, we've kind of have definitive data to show this, that their win rates have always been high. Now their play counts are as high to match that, and that's been rising over the end of season 7. So now healing, so for a long time healing was always strong, but a lot of people did not perceive it as all that strong. People see our anti-heal items in the game, they see how strong they are, and a lot of people are taking that at face value, and they're looking at the anti-heal items and they're going, okay, this is really strong, so healing is balanced. But in reality, healing was still really strong all this time. And now that the players are starting to learn this, and the design team and the pro players and the players out there are all starting to become aligned and seeing that healing is just very powerful on its own, that's why we're taking this time, the beginning of a season, it's the best time to do something like this, to implement a completely new rule to healing that has some pretty big effects on it. And I think Ponpon's going to walk us through the exact cause and effect here.
Yep. So starting in Season 8 of Smite, in every single game mode, there will be a kind of global anti-heal applied to gods that are not fighting other gods. We've termed this as brawling, because it's not quite out of combat, but this is largely focused to what people would generally call out of combat healing. If you haven't taken damage or CC'd an enemy god, or haven't been damaged or CC'd by an enemy god within the last few seconds, your healing will actually be reduced, so that when you're trying to like quickly sustain behind like a camp, sustain off a camp potentially, you can't get quite as much health back to make sure out of combat healing isn't too strong. But when you are directly fighting your opponents, you're healing at full strength. This
God
really
only.
is the God only. So if you try and hit that jungle monster camp or the minion wave to heal up, that's not God combat. That doesn't count.
Right.
So that's really the goal here, is to make sure that when you're fighting, healing, and I think most people would generally agree that healing feels fair when you're directly fighting each other, because you have chances to counterplay with anti-heal. They can try and juke that anti-heal, but out of combat healing feels particularly frustrating.
Yeah.
So that's what this goal of this changes. We're also pairing this with a few reductions to the anti-heal items across the board, mostly in duration and a slight hit to their effectiveness, because if healers are going to be globally weaker when healing out of combat, we need to make sure that their strength feels good in combat, even when people are building anti-heal. So they'll still definitely be strong. I think across the board, it's generally about 5% off each of these items, as well as 3 seconds off the duration.
Right.
So mostly to make sure that it lines up with when you've left combat, that anti-heal drops off you, but when you're in combat, it is still applied to you. So there's a lot of global changes here with the goal of reducing frustration with out-of-combat healing, making sure healing feels rewarding in combat, and bring healers overall more into line with their perceived strength as kind of this +1 that they bring to a team that's unique to them.
Yeah. And kind of the last piece of this puzzle is just the couple items that do have kind of combat-focused healing tech. We're doing some shifts to those, stuff like Rod of Healing, Rod of Asclepius, and Caduceus Shield. Just making sure, now that we have new kind of rules for combat healing and brawling healing, just getting rid of those redundancies, right?
Yeah, so now it's just a passive boost to your healing, because the kind of in combat, out of combat, while fighting, while not fighting is now generally handled by the global aura versus needing to be on that particular item.
For sure.
So we've got big healing nerfs out of combat, some small healing buffs in combat, what we expect to be a net nerf on healing. And
correct,
this applies to what specific types of healing does this apply to, Ponpon, just for clarity's sake?
So this focuses on lifesteal and ability healing. It does not impact potions. It does not impact item healing, because those items often have very particular purposes for why they're providing that healing. But
Right.
God abilities and God lifesteal will be affected by this.
For sure.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, those were kind of our big pillars, a big two things for balance. So let's go ahead and move right into like traditional item and god balance for 8.1. And we'll start it off with some consumables here. We've got some buffs to Elixir of Power and Elixir of Defense. Elixir of Power is now going to provide 10% penetration, and Elixir of Defense is going to provide 5% damage mitigation and 20% CCR.
Yeah,
This
these
actually came
items
as
were
a
just. Oh, sorry, Pon Pon.
Yeah, this kind of came out as a result of the new starter items. Really, is that we now have 3K potions, movement speed potions. Needing to upgrade your starter and making that decision, they kind of fell off as there's some weird build paths towards getting to them and making sure they felt worth their 3K gold. So we're just boosting up the power one to get some extra percent pen, because that will help kind of fit into more builds generally, as well as the defensive one, making sure that it feels good to build the defensive one. It felt a little bit lackluster comparatively, and that flat damage mitigation and CCR is going to really help it shine.
All right, and we've got one relic change for 8.1. Shield of Thorns going to be seeing a nerf here. We're going to be decreasing the damage reflect and decreasing the cap of damage taken, and that's going to be for both the base and the upgraded version.
So how many Thorns discussions have we had recently, Pon Pon?
It dominates most balance meetings at some point for at least a few minutes.
This item is very polarizing. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people think it's the strongest relic in the game, others think it's completely useless. The truth is that this item has an interesting place in the game, we think. This item can be frustrating when people are using it, really well, but it comes with proper usage, right? It's very possible to use Thorns right as a fight is disengaging and get very little value out of it. Just like it's just as easy to get scared and use your beads when you really didn't need to yet, right? It's a relic, it's on a long cooldown, so it feels like a fair effect to exist in the game. But we wanted to make sure that it had a reasonable top end when used properly. So right now, when used really well, especially in a pro setting, which is where a lot of our feedback is coming from, it does create a situation where there's not a lot of counterplay. The tanky character can run at the squishy characters and be very, very hard or nearly impossible to fight back against. So what we're doing is just taking down the total caps. The maximum amount of damage that it could output is coming down on both the regular version and the upgrade, to make sure that even when used properly, this isn't as devastating.
All right, well, we're going to move right along to some tank items here. And first up, we have Witchblade seeing a shift here. It's now going to build off of Adventurer's Blade. We're taking away the attack speed, but it's now going to provide 30 physical protections, and we're increasing the attack speed aura on it.
Yeah, so one big change here is the Adventurer's Blade tree is getting a little bit shuffled around. Toxic Blade will be on its own on the right, as well as Witchblade, Winged Blade, and Relic Dagger will all be kind of in their own trio. Witchblade is going to provide the physical protection of that tree, Wingblade will be magical protection, and then Relic Dagger will be full health. But Witchblade is just one of those items that really existed in this weird hybrid space of some characters really couldn't leverage the attack speed well, but really wanted the attack speed reduction. So now it's going to be more focused as being a defensive tanky solo lane item, and just move towards that direction. So now it provides physical protection, as well as the aura is going to be more intense to really help with that utility.
All right, next up, we've got another change to the blade tree here. We've got Winged Blade up next. We're going to be decreasing the health on Winged Blade, but this one is going to provide 30 magical protections.
As a tank player, I'm so happy with this decision. We got the blade tree actually feeling like real support items now that they're giving different types of protections. And it's so nice the way we're able to work out magical on one, physical on the other, health on that one, and then an aggressive item. This is just such a fun tree. So Winged Blade provides a really powerful passive, but it hasn't been super popular in a while. We wanted to make sure we gave it a little bit of a shift because its stats are pretty powerful. But now you're going to get that new magical protections, because the magical gods in Smite do tend to have a little more slows than their physical counterparts. Obviously, this item can still be good when you're against physical gods, but now you're going to be able to actually get protections along with those amazing anti-slow stats.
For sure. All right, next up and last for the blade tree, we got Relic Dagger. So we're increasing the health on this item, and it's now going to provide 10% crowd control reduction.
Yep, this is an interesting item we've seen some pro players especially use to great effect, but it generally is more still on the outskirts of a lot of builds. So we thought it had some room to go up. This is now the health item versus the physical or magical protection item, going to 350 health, as well as getting some crowd control reduction to make sure that you can actually be in the front line for your team. And if you get a CC, you can mitigate a little bit of that off.
For sure. All right, next up, we've got Emperor's Armor. Small buff here. We're just increasing the physical protection by 10.
Now, this is a good item, but not a great item. And it also has a very unique passive that is very tactical. It's very situational. So Emperor's Armor was kind of contrasting its stats with the other males in its tree, but now it's got more even physical protections with the other males, which is great because now you could really choose which one you want based off of the situation, not just the stats.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then last up for tank items here, Talisman of Energy going to be seeing a buff. It's now going to provide maximum stacks on God, Death, or Assist.
Yeah, this is a buff that comes from our Olympians. They really wanted to kind of shout out this item. Talisman of Energy is one of those items that has a really strong effect, but it's really difficult to leverage in Conquest when you're fighting around like a fire giant where there's not many minions dying. So now if you actually do get a kill, if your team successfully gets a kill, they get to feel the full effect of this item and really get to chase down that fight pretty aggressively.
This is going to be strong.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some assassin items here. Jotun's Wrath going to be getting a buff here, and we are increasing the physical power by 10.
The Jotun's buff, it's finally happening. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion on this item. Some people even going as far as to say that it should have a whole passive in addition to it. We think that's a bit extreme. The 20% CDR is still a pretty powerful defining feature of the item. However, we are aware of the fact that it's fallen a little out of favor and it's starting to feel a little undertuned. We are just giving it a power bump to make sure that those assassins who really care about that burst damage and cooldown reduction, they still have their go-to old reliable item that's been in Smite forever. And I think this is just going to feel really good across the board.
For sure. All right, next up, we've got Stone Cutting Sword going to be seeing a buff here, and we are decreasing the cost.
Yep, Stone Cutting Sword is a pretty powerful in-hand item, but a lot of the in-hand characters have seen adjustments over the years. A lot of the items that support them have also seen adjustments over this year. Stone Cutting really never fit into any of those builds too greatly, mostly because it doesn't have any of the attack speed on its own. So we just want to make sure that when people are building this item in those types of builds, it's cheap enough to really flex in there so you can get the other items that support it more aggressively.
All right, next up, we got Berserker Shield. We're going to be seeing a little bit of a shift here. We're going to be decreasing the physical protection, but increasing the power, both the base power and the power from the passive.
Pon, you trying to troll me? Put in Berserker Shield in the assassin items section? No, he's not.
Yep.
This is an intentional shift. We're trying to find some hybrid items and shift them more towards the aggressive side. Right now, we have the hammer tree, and we have a lot of other things coming up for solo laners and warriors. And we wanted to also make sure that assassins had some interesting item choices. And the game was starting to feel like the hybrid items were leaning a little bit too heavily on the tank side in a couple places. So we're going to be making this key change to Berserker Shield. And I'm also setting up here Pon for the next change, which is going to have a little bit of a similar idea applied in the magical shield tree. And these are still going to be kind of hybrid items, but these are going to be more reasonable, aggressive options that assassins can choose to opt into in certain scenarios.
Yep. So we'll move right along to Warded Shield up next. We're going to be decreasing the cost on that, but also decreasing the magical protection.
Yep, so Warded Shield, that tree is going to see further adjustment with the next item, Ancile, to make this make a bit more sense. But mostly this is it was very expensive for the defense, for the amount of defense it provided. So we're bringing that down, but we're also setting up the magical protections to be in line with our general tree upgrades, making sure their stats are always upgrading when you go to a tier 3.
For sure. All right, let's talk about Ancile. We're going to be decreasing the magical protection on that and increasing the physical power.
This is a true shift right here. You know, just getting rid of the protections and increasing the power. This is a really cool item, and for a while it was pretty popular, and it still has some really strong advantages, and we really want this item built more on aggressive characters. When tanky characters were diving in and getting extra CC, that is a little bit more of a balance concern for us, so we wanted to move this more towards aggression as well as giving assassins a few more choices.
Cool. All right, last up for Assassins. Serrated Edge, going to be seeing a buff/shift here. It's now going to provide 10 physical power per stack, but will no longer provide 10 basic attack power per stack.
Yeah, the goal of this buff is mostly to open it up towards more assassins versus just in-hand assassins. So now it'll provide physical power per stack. This makes other characters potentially want to use it if they can like dump their abilities and maybe dump their ultimate to get that power stem. But just opening up the cast that can use it, we saw after a round of balance changes to this one, it kind of fell out of favor. So making sure that other characters can make use of it is a goal for this change.
For sure. All right, we've got mage items up next. Celestial Legion helm up first. We're going to be increasing the magical power.
Yeah, another item that's kind of a hybrid item, maybe even a tank item that we're moving a little bit more towards the aggressive direction. This item allows you to build up a lot of physical protections, which is a great anti-ganking item, but it really did not have the power that made it very attractive. A lot of mid laners just didn't feel like it was worth it, so we're giving it that little bump to make it feel like a real actual hybrid option for mages.
All right, next up, Spear of Desolation. This is a fun one. Now going to decrease your ultimate ability cooldown by 8 seconds on getting a kill, plus in addition to what it's already doing.
Yeah, this one provides a little bit more utility. The passive really only occurred on kills. So depending on who you ask, this passive was either okay-ish or not really usable because it didn't really help you get into a fight. And so you kind of default to Spear of the Magus, which provides just straight up utility. But Spear of Desolation, getting this ultimate cooldown reduction can be really interesting on certain characters that have lower cooldown ultimates, or it just sets you up for the fight after the fight. When you maybe win a Fire Giant fight, you can go siege the Phoenix and have your ultimate up a little bit earlier to really help you push.
For sure. All right. Next up in the pin tree, Obsidian Shard, increasing the magical power on this one.
And as you're seeing here, we're doing a lot of shifts with the mage penetration items, and there's going to be a few more of those coming up too. What we want is to make sure that all of the penetration items in the mages have available to them are all looking like viable options. We've seen Divine Ruin really rise to the top this year with the healing changes as well as the buffs to the other items. We expect them to have a lot more even footing. Obsidian Shard already provides a lot of penetration, and that's great, and we were pretty happy with how its passive is working. We just wanted to give it that little extra power bump.
Cool. Speaking of a little extra power bump, we're going to be doing the same thing to Polynomicon, just bumping up the magical power by 10.
Bumping up power by 10, and also this does increase its proc a little bit more by a small amount, but just making sure that this item felt good to build.
All right. Another one in the book tree, Soul Reaver up next. Going to be seeing a shift. It's no longer going to provide your 10% magical penetration. We're decreasing the cost, though, and we're going to be increasing the health damage at maximum strength up to 9%.
Pawn, why don't you go ahead and take these next two that are very tied together?
Yeah, so the next two changes are very closely related. One piece of feedback we got with the initial changes to magical penetration was that Soul Reaver felt kind of like it double dipped really heavily. It was not only getting the percent pen that was good against tanks, but also the passive that was good against tanks. And so we're going to remove the kind of double dipping that it had and more focus on its core strength, which is dealing percent health damage to targets, making sure that feels good. Without the penetration, we feel like these are going to be roughly equivalent stat shifts to really focus on an anti-tank direction. And then the next one that's coming up is going to be where we add the 10% back because we want to make sure there are a breadth of options available.
For sure. So we are adding that 10% magical penetration to Rod of Tahuti, and I will let Pawn take it away.
Yeah, Rod of Tahuti is the very high power option for mages, and now it's going to be a little bit more desirable with the penetration. We talked quite a bit internally about should this one get 10% and have a nerf applied to it or any other changes applied to it. And we overall went with it could probably survive just the 10% penetration utility. Its passive is relatively strong, but it is very situational its use, and you're foregoing other potentially very powerful passives like Ethereal Staff is a pretty common one that we were discussing. What you could pick up instead. So we feel like Rod Tahuti can use this penetration, and we're going to be excited to see how mage players fit this very expensive item into their build.
Definitely. All right, Cursed Orb up next. Going to be seeing a nerf here. We're going to be decreasing the movement speed and the stack count, but we're increasing the power per stack from 3 to 4, 15 to 16 total.
So really what this does is create a bit of a shift, but we're nerfing the movement speed mostly. We made an inverse adjustment to the magical power to make it about the same as before, but the movement speed is being lost, and that's what's going to be played into the next change on Doom Orb as well.
Yes, so do more.
Yeah,
We're going to be decreasing the movement speed by 2% from 6 to
right.
4.
So Doomorb is this Doomorb rush is starting to be a mage meta that we're seeing a lot of. And on a new map, on a bigger map, on a wider map, we know that's going to get even more popular. So we've already been seeing it on the rise in season 7. We wanted to make sure we gave it a little touch downward before season 8. We were planning on doing this for season 8 anyway, but even if we didn't see it too much in season 7, but I'm glad we did so people feel like the nerf makes more sense. But this is going to be, I think, still a very strong strategy on the new map. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on it.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to some warrior items. Up next, Shifter Shield, one of my favorite items here. Going to be increasing the physical protection and increasing the protections gained while under 75% health and decreasing the cost.
Yeah, so kind of the reverse of what we saw with Assassins. This was an item that was kind of in the bruiser category where it gave you some power and some protections. But we're going to shift it more towards tanks so they have access to this item. It's going to have some more upfront protections, and it's going to get a little bit extra boost in the protections you get when you're below 75% health, just to make it more kind of like interesting for the warriors who want to be a bit more offensive to build into. And the cost is coming down because it was also pricey for the stats it was providing in general.
Right. Frostbound Hammer up next, another fun item. Going to be increasing the physical power and increasing the attack speed reduction on the item.
A Frostbound Hammer buff. How long has it been?
Right?
This item
Has to be years.
really fallen out of favor over the years, and we wanted to be careful to not buff the slow. We know that that is the risky spot, but this item's stats are a little underwhelming, and we thought its counter potential could be better. So as a possible alternative to like the Witchblade strategy to counter the fast attacking assassins or hunters, now the Frostbound Hammer is actually going to have stronger attack speed reduction, which I think is really great. It makes this item a lot more interesting, gives you a lot more different choices to make and when you want to buy it, as opposed to it just being like the default slow item.
For sure. All right, we've got another one in the hammer tree here. Runeforge is going to be seeing a shift, increasing the health, but decreasing the power, but increasing the passive damage increase.
Yeah, so you'll see another hammer after this as well, which is the goal of making sure all the hammers feel like pretty equitable buys compared to what Sledge has been for the most of Season 7. Runeforge Hammer getting a shift towards being more defensive in nature, getting some bonus health, losing some power, but for the high base damage that a lot of warriors provide, they can leverage this passive damage increase a bit better. So assassins who want that bonus damage will have to contend with the 10 power reduction, but warriors who don't really build as much power, that bonus passive damage increase is going to help them out a lot more.
Cool. All right, and the last up in the hammer tree, the sledge, everyone's favorite item of Season 7. Going to be seeing a straight-up nerf here, decreasing the health and decreasing the protections per stack.
The item with the best name in the game does have to get nerfed occasionally. The sledge is kind of the cornerstone of all of these warrior changes. We know that this item was strong, but we also had a lot of concerns about warriors and solo still being good across the game. And role balance is really important to us. Even if there's an item that's over purchased, that's okay as long as the overall game feels good. But we're taking this opportunity to fix that, bringing down the sledge's power, just straight up giving it a nerf, which it needs, and then kind of redistributing that power elsewhere into the Runeforged and Frostbound and some of these other changes.
All right, and last up for tank items, Shield of Regrowth. Going to be seeing a nerf to the movement speed from the passive by 10%.
Zoom got a little bit less zoom today, but it is this is one of those changes that we were looking at towards
movement speed.
It's a lot of movement speed. It's DRing itself almost immediately too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this item was one of those items that we were looking at, especially when we were looking at the larger map, similar to Doomorb. We've seen a few builds really leverage this movement speed really high, but also on the new map, that movement speed is going to let you go around the map quite fast. We just wanted to take some of the edge off of that item to make sure that it was more in line with the power that movement speed as a whole is going to be kind of getting buffed in with the new map being bigger.
All right, well, that wraps it up for tank items. Let's move on to hunter items, and we've got an all-new one up next. Let's talk about Dominance, going to be coming in Season 8. It's going to be building off of Charged Morningstar, providing power, mana, and MP5, 10% physical penetration, and a passive. Your basic attacks will now benefit from an additional 10% physical penetration. Pon, what's going on with this new item?
Yeah, so this is another start of a penetration shift, similar to what we saw in mages, just taking the feedback that we've gotten from our last round of physical penetration changes and kind of addressing concerns. Mostly Atalanta's build or bow had really dictated a lot of builds throughout the year, so we wanted to create a new item that provided a similar power without so many synergy stats, and then adjust accordingly. So dominance is that new item. It's going to be focusing on penetration for basic attackers. So if you get a lot of your damage output from base attacks like a hunter, you can definitely build into it. And this also gives an interesting new upgrade path from the tier 2 hunter start if they still want to go that after seeing all the starter items.
For sure. All right. Since we're kind of talking about this penetration shift, I'll stick with you, Pon. Let's talk about Atalanta's bow up next. We're going to be decreasing the physical penetration percentage and decreasing the cost on the item.
Yep. So this is just going to be an adjustment to remove it from being the 20% pen option. That's going to be more fit by dominance now, and then adjust the cost accordingly. It's still a good amount of penetration, attack speed, a strong passive, but it's not going to be so build defining as it has been throughout the year.
All right. And then last up, I'll throw it to you again, Pon. The Executioner, which kind of is under the penetration tree here, talking about pen. We're going to be buffing the item, increasing the maximum stat count from 3 to 4.
With all these shifts, especially because Atalanta's bow was a very strong percent pen item, Executioner did get an adjustment and largely fell out of favor. We want to make sure that it still has a place, especially with different attack speed penetration options existing. So Executioner is just going to get an extra stack, which means you can get up to 28% pen. If you're really hitting that same target over and over, if the front line is really trying to dive you, this is going to be a pretty effective tool in your toolkit.
For sure. All right. So we've kind of talked about physical penetration percentage on the hunter items, but let's talk about crit a little bit, AJ. Talk to me about what we're going to be doing for crit on hunter items in season 8.
So crit is a very interesting stat, very polarizing, and we're going to be making some changes that are going to affect a variety of different crit items here. So really what we feel like we've learned the most over the years is that crit feels really bad in small percentages. It's a very big effect and it's random. That big effect with a random chance is what makes crit fun, but it also can make crit really frustrating when you have like 7% crit chance and you hit your opponent 3 crits. Like people get really frustrated by that. So what we're doing is we're actually going to be making a change to a lot of crit items where the tier 1 and tier 2 items don't have any crit chance on them. So you have to actually build all the way to the tier 3 before you get crit chance. And what that lets us do is that make sure that nobody gets crit in really small increments. You have to buy a full item to get a reasonable amount of crit, where it's still, it's still going to be interesting because you're not sure when you're going to get crit, but it's not going to be frustrating. That's also going to let us do some other power shifts that are just going to be able to make the items better, because honestly, crit has fallen out of favor pretty recently for quite a while. So we're also looking to just buff the tier 3 items in a few ways as well. So we're going to see that soon.
Yeah, for sure. So TLDR, 8-pointed shuriken, hidden dagger, short sword, all getting their crit removed, but getting a small little bump to help out. But let's talk about some of the T3 crit items here, and we'll do rage up first. We're going to be increasing the power and increasing the cost on the item.
Yep. So Rage is one of the kind of follow-ups from all these changes, making sure that tier 3s always have upgraded stats from their tier 2 counterpart. The tier 2 got to 25 power, so now Rage needs to be bumped up a little bit, but it's also getting some cost to adjust for that too. Largely, we're expecting Rage's power to remain relatively similar. It's in a pretty good spot.
All right. Deathbringer up next, the big boy crit item. We're going to be increasing the physical power from 40 to 50.
Deathbringer is very popular. A lot of people like it. A lot of people enjoy it. It hasn't really been considered meta in a long time. So we're trying to bring this up just a little bit in its power. So it fits better with more builds. It gives you that power. It's a high cost, high power item, and it really didn't quite feel like it had the stats, the oomph that it should.
All right, let's move on to the shuriken tree. We've got Shadow Steel Shuriken up next. We're going to be increasing the power and increasing the attack speed.
Yep. So this is going to be similar with like all the shurikens. They're all going to get some level of adjustment to help them out because they were generally underperforming. Shadow Steel Shuriken, the anti-heal one, is going to get some power and attack speed. There's also changes related to its anti-heal that have been kind of talked about in the anti-heal section. So those changes are also in addition to these, but we just want to separate them out because they're very two different talking points and discussion points.
For sure, yep. Up next in the shuriken tree, Wind Demon, just getting a straight up crit chance buff by 5%.
Right, this item buffs the user for getting that crit. So this is the high crit item in the tree. And we want you to make sure that you're able to get those Wind Demon procs.
For
Yep,
sure.
and also making sure that there's a passive amount of crit chance on this item so that when you do invest in that tier 3 item, you have enough crit chance that the enemy feels fair that when you crit them, right?
Right,
Mhm.
just like with the changes to the tier 2s.
For sure. All right. And then last up for items overall, we've got Poison Star. Seeing a little shift. We're going to be decreasing the cost and decreasing the poison slow.
This item provides utility uniquely to crit, but its cost was largely prohibitive. And this item has a history of being very strong, with its slow, especially making it you able to box opponents very effectively. We're going to bring down the cost so people can fit it more into their builds, but also decrease the slow that was the frustration point from it. So now the damage reduction you bring in a boxing trade is going to be the majority of the strength of this item.
All right, that wraps it up for items. Let's move on to gods, guys. Let's go ahead and start with Janus. Going to be seeing some significant changes here, and we're going to go in game and take a look at it. But I'll pass it along to AJ and talk to me about Janus and what's going on.
So Janus is a very interesting god. He has some of the most unique features in the game, and he's always been a huge balance debate. Now, we are pretty happy with Janus's design. It's very unique. It's very high skill cap. And players who are picking up Janus and don't really know what they're doing tend to do pretty poorly as well. So we're really trying to be careful to not just overbuff this god because we know how powerful he can be in the pro scene. But what we did is we wanted to look at some of his abilities and their inconsistency. Janus has some very strange things to learn about him, and a few things that didn't really feel like they needed to exist on the kit. They don't really add to his uniqueness. So what we're doing is making a key change to Portal, where that enemies who have been CC'd by Portal and are falling will be able to be damaged, like other banishes. This is a consistency change, as well as this gives the Janus player a little bit more leniency into how easy or hard it is to hit the combo between Portal and Unstable Vortex. So making that element of the kit a little easier and making it Janus just a better team player, because now your teammates can play better off the CC. Now, the ability we're changing even more that has made us kind of dub this a minor rework is Unstable Vortex. We're changing the hit area of this ability, and by that I mean we're specifically filling in the middle. We're not changing the outer edges. This ability is still going to hit the same sized area on the outside, but we're removing the negative space. So any space in the middle is going to count as a hit. Whereas the previous Janus had a small, what we have pretty much determined is mostly luck level of space to dodge the ability. It's extremely small and very rare to do, and doesn't really feel skillful. It felt lucky. We are still maintaining the double hit in the sweet spots, and we are making significant fixes to the targeter to more accurately affect the hit area. That's going to make it look like it got a lot bigger, but you have to trust us. We're not making it bigger. The previous targeter was just very rough. It was very vague. There was a lot of area where the targeter wouldn't hit gods, but you actually were hitting gods. And then we had one more Janus change, which is themed around audio clarity, visual feedback. So when the Janus fires his ultimate through space and time, it can be hard to see this. It's coming at you through walls from long distances away. So what we're doing is adding an audio cue to it so you can hear it coming towards you, which will give you a chance to juke. And we're also adjusting the amount of damage that it can deal. So to avoid, this was maybe one of the only abilities in the game that could literally one-shot people.
Yeah.
And now you won't be able to actually do that. They have to be a little damaged already, or you have to have someone to follow up on. So big changes for Janus across the board. Something we would consider a rework, but a very light one just because of the depth we went into these abilities, and something that doesn't really radically change his playstyle or his balance state. It's really just cleaning up a lot of rough edges.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got it in game for you guys now to take a look and see just some of the changes here. So there's the portal there, upon showing off and driving here. See the new targeter for Unstable Vortex there. And you see like the little electricity in the center there that actually is counting as a hit.
Right.
Yep, just showing off all the different targeter shapes. Double hitting is still working, the damage in the center area. One other change is you can actually damage them while they're falling. So here, that previously would have missed, which most players probably wouldn't have expected, but you actually had to wait a little bit closer to when they landed to actually confirm that hit. And then finally, the ultimate. Just a few audio things. You're going to hear it more playing against Giannis, but frying so you can kind of hear that audio being a bit more intense than other sound effects, making sure that players can actually hear that when it approaches them.
Correct. Lots of big Janus changes coming in, so I'm sure Clumsy is super excited. He's going to be playing some Janus mid here coming up in Season 8. But let's move right along, and let's talk about some of the meta nerfs that we're looking at here for Season 8. And kicking off with Bakasura. Insatiable Hunger, we're going to be decreasing the movement speed.
So Bakasura has been continuing to dominate the ranked queues, right, Pompon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen him do pretty good work in the ranked queues. We've seen certain characters, especially like characters with high movement speed, being able to like really box opponents. And so this next series of changes is really focused on characters that we expect that are currently pretty good, that are also going to benefit from the map being larger and having their movement speed. We really debated back and forth how much we wanted to affect characters that had movement speed in their kit before players got to see them. And so we largely just focused on the characters we know are currently performing really well and are very likely to continue performing very well on the new map. So that's going to be Bakasura, Ra, and Poseidon. In Bakasura's case, it's his passive. This is going to be a potential 6% movement speed reduction when he's at full stacks.
For sure. And move right along to Ra here. He's been shining in Season 7. So we're going to take that down just a little bit. Speed of Light going to be decreased in the movement speed on that.
Now, I'm sure we could have gotten away with a Raw nerf, whether or not the map and the movement speed was going to be in his advantage in the next season. The god is doing very well. So we, as Pon mentioned, we're trying to look at only the gods who are already doing really well and the ones we expect to get even better in the next map that are being nerfed. Specifically, Ra's movement speed, we've given the god a lot more additional damage and utility. He's also going to be heavily affected by the healing changes, which we want to call out here. Mm-hmm. So maybe you expected more Ra nerfs. Don't be disappointed because you could kind of slap a label on here that says 30% decreased all healing. So kind of a big deal for him too. So just a small movement speed nerf in addition to those healing changes.
All right. And then last up that we were talking about here in this group, Poseidon. Changing Tide is going to be decreasing the movement speed on that.
Yep, and this one might look a little bit bigger than Ra, which might seem a little bit strange, but this is one character that had access to that 15% movement speed basically at the start of the game, where Ra couldn't really maintain his passive at the start of the game. So just a little bit larger hit to make sure that Poseidon, in his ability to really rotate and outmaneuver his mid lane opponents, feels a bit more fair.
All right, moving right along, we've got Agni up next, and we're going to be making a change to Combustion, the passive. Basic attacking a god now provides 2 stacks.
This is a theme we've gone through in a few different gods, a few different passives, even items like Talisman of Energy today. We want to make sure that these items that play off of minion waves can still be useful in teamfight scenarios. Agni had this same issue. It was very hard to stack his passive in just teamfight scenarios. So now the Agnis that mix in some basic attacks in between their abilities and are able to get some little bit of poke are going to be able to stack that combustion, get those extra dot damage, and just be more effective Agni players, which we're really excited about.
Definitely. All right, next up, Chernobog, going to be seeing a buff here. Vicious Barrage, we're going to be increasing the attack speed and decreasing the mana cost.
Yeah, this ability double scaled. It was 20 to 60% and also 3 seconds to 5. It probably didn't need to scale as intensely in both directions. So we're making sure that the rank 1 feels a bit stronger. If it's only going to be 3 seconds of duration, it's going to be a 40% speed stem and scaling up to the same 60% that you're familiar with. And in addition, this item is often used kind of in combination with his first ability. So we want to make sure that that isn't too mana intensive in the laning phase.
All right, next up, we've got Chiron. Going to be seeing a change to Herbal Medicine. It's now going to provide power to allies that have been healed.
Yeah, Chiron's passive is already a little bit sleeper because it's that little bit of sustain that can be really good. But he has this ability power theme, and he also has this kind of like additional team utility theme, like he can cleanse allies as a hunter. So this is just a really cool little addition we're adding to his passive to help Chiron get a little ability power boost or his allies. And this passive, even though I said it was a little bit sleeper OP, most players consider Chiron passive to be pretty unexciting. So we wanted to give him something that was a little bit more interesting and had a little bit more potential. And I'm really excited to play this because I love playing the Horseman already. So I know I'm going to be running him in Season 8.
Definitely. All right, next up on the buff list, we got Kronos. We're going to be increasing the attack speed per level, and then Stop Time, going to be increasing the power scaling.
Yeah, so Mage ADC has had a very interesting history in Season 7. Mostly with a lot of different items and adjustments. We looked at Kronos and Soul in particular, and they seemed like characters that could use buffs, but given the volatility of mage items at the time, we kind of held off on that change. After seeing how everything is kind of like resolved, we think Kronos and Soul could still use those buffs, and so you'll see a very similar series of changes on Soul later on, but Kronos getting that attack speed per level and getting a little bit extra scaling on stop time.
All right, next up, we've got Danzaburou. The legendary Tanuki has been out on the battleground hustling folks, so a little bit of a nerf here. We've got Dubious Savings up first. We're going to be decreasing the bonus power, and then Fool's Gold, we're going to be decreasing the base damage and the damage from subsequent hits.
Yeah, we are absolutely thrilled with this God launch. I think he's super fun and interesting. And as tends to happen with new God launches, he's a little bit on the powerful side. We're toning down his key poke damage as well as this free power he's getting from his passive, which stacks over time. So that adds up really in the end when you're playing a hunter. I'm really excited to see how Danzaburou gets played throughout the next year and how it gets affected by the new map. And as he hasn't had his real chance for a lot of pro play yet, I'm excited to see if he stays a major contender throughout the year or not. So we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on him, but he needs a little downward adjustment in this first update since his launch. So that's a good thing to get to.
All right, Fenrir up next. Unchained, we're going to be increasing the physical power scaling, and then Seething Howl is going to immediately generate 2 Unbound Rudes upon cast. And then Brutalize, last but not least, we're going to be increasing the AoE damage.
Yeah, Fenrir is just getting some love, especially on the more assassin-oriented side. The extra scaling on Unchained is going to make his leap quite deadly. The Seething Howl, getting some extra utility to generate runes immediately, often helps Fenrir players really get to that 5 rune threshold to get their bonus effect. There's a lot of interesting ways that you can use this, especially like going from jungle clear to a lane gank. Being able to actually generate the stun is really important for him, as well as Brutalize. Getting the extra AoE damage is not only help on clear, but help really make it a ability that you want to cast, even if maybe basic attacking canceling might be a little bit quicker DPS. Spreading that damage out on the whole enemy team, if you can get in there and find an opportunity, can be quite valuable. So we want to make sure that strength is very highlighted.
For sure. All right, next up, we've got Hachiman. Seeing a buff and a fix here. Eagle Eye, we're going to be decreasing the cooldown. And then Mounted Archery, we fixed an issue where Hachiman could fire other abilities while exiting the ultimate.
Normally we list bug fixes in their own section, but this is going to have balance implications, and we also will be looking into making the same fix on Rama, which we'll get to in a little bit. This maybe should be listed as a shift because of that, because this is a potentially large nerf. Players who are especially adept at Hachiman were able to quickly dash and use other abilities out of exiting their ult, which would cause some strange animation things. It didn't look intended. It was obvious that was not our goal. So we're adding a little bit of additional post fire at the time there to make sure that he has to actually land, reset his animations, and dash, and so you can actually see what he's doing. That's going to be a potentially large nerf. He's also getting a small buff along with that with the Eagle Eye ability. We were terrified about this ability when we were first designing it and launching it. The idea of basic attacks hitting far away, but we've realized that basic attacks that are far away are pretty jukeable, right? So there's a lot of things that opponents can do to counterplay this. So we're just buffing this ability a little bit more in the cooldown, and this gives Hachiman some really cool late game opportunity where you can actually start poking really scarily with this amount of damage. So definitely excited for this shift. This god has always been on the cusp of pro play, so he probably will remain there. He's hard to estimate, honestly. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out.
Definitely. All right, Hercules up next, seeing a buff. Earthbreaker going to be increasing the damage on it.
Yeah, so we recently adjusted his passive, which took a lot of the edge off his early game. So we wanted to give some of that back and give him some additional utility, mainly some base damage to bring back for the strength that he lost in his passive. Earthbreaker is going to be a little bit better to clear early on, but as you rank it up, it's going to provide the extra base damage that we've seen a lot of warriors when we make these types of changes, like these small base damage adjustments or small scaling adjustments. They really do a lot. In the long term. So we're excited to see where Hercules actually falls, especially now that his level 1 isn't so lethal.
Most definitely. All right, let's move on to Izanami here. Death draws nigh. Izanami's sickle projectile will increase as she gains attack speed. This should result more closely with her sickle returning before a second one fires.
This is a spicy one. Izanami's basic attacks are strange, and that's intentional, right? We did some really cool, interesting things with these boomerang attacks, but and we kept all of her basic attack properties the same, except for the pass through and the returning. What that has created, though, is when she starts building fast attack speed, she starts having multiple projectiles in the play space at the same time, some going this way, some going that way, and it gets really a bit cluttered and confusing. So now we have added a new buff to her where her basic attack projectiles actually fly faster as her attack speed goes faster, which keeps it so she pretty much only has one sickle ever out at a time. Makes it much easier to see, a lot easier to focus on, makes her basic attacks feel a lot better. It is a potentially powerful change, though, so we will keep an eye on her. This goddess has been pretty casual strong for a long time, but has never really broken into the pro player high-ranked play. I'm really interested to see if this change is able to do that, or if she just becomes like a casual nightmare. We're going to keep a close eye on it either way, but we wanted to make her feel as good as possible first before we started accompanying it with a whole lot of additional nerfs.
Right, for sure. All right, next up we've got Merlin. We're going to be seeing a shift here. Frostbolt, we're going to be decreasing the scaling, but then Radiate, lots of changes here. We're going to be decreasing the time between ticks, and then changing that. It has lots of implications for magical power scaling. I'll let Pon, our math expert here, do the explaining here.
Yeah, so the quick of this change is Merlin's range poke is quite good. Frostbolt's really good. Blizzard's really good. The arcane orb that flies out's really good. But the Radiate channel is very risky, and often it didn't really match up visually with what was going on. It's a channeled fire beam, but it only had half-second interval ticks, so you'd be hovering a fire beam on someone and they're not really getting hit, which felt strange. So we've increased the tick rate so that it actually feels a bit more responsive when you're using it, and we've done damage adjustment numbers to make it worthwhile to cast in range if you're going to put yourself at risk and be that far forward with Merlin. So ticks faster, and the math adjustment largely means that if you get the full channel off on someone, you're going to be doing more damage than you were previously.
Most definitely. All right, speaking of more damage, we've got Naja up next, and he's seeing some sizable buffs here. First up, we've got Flaming Spear, changing the heal there to be 0.75 of your maximum health per stack. Then Armillary Sash. This ability can no longer crit, but we're increasing the damage on it and increasing the scaling by 50%. And then Windfire Wheels, we're going to be increasing the beads window for Windfire Wheels. And then upon landing, you're going to be gaining protections. So lots of stuff for Naja.
I might need some help here explaining all this, Pon, but I'll let me take a first shot at it. There's a couple different goals all happening at once here. We have, first, we want to keep an eye on avoiding Naja from being a support, or too good of a support. For a long time, we could not buff Naja in very many meaningful ways because he would just go back to dominating the duo lane in a way that was frustrating. Right. So certain changes in this, like adding more power scaling and making the heal not heal off of max health, help move him towards more of an assassin direction. We're also looking into some just quality of life issues. So we had a lot of basic attack animation bugs that could occur when using his self-stim. And we also had some just kind of confusion and difficulty building and not so fun gameplay with dealing with this ability crit. And this is something that came a lot from our pro player feedback. They just wanted a more consistent experience. When you're playing an assassin like him, they just want you to be able to deal damage. They don't want to necessarily be surprised by whether or not this damage is a huge hit. Then we finally rounded this out with the ultimate. The ultimate is essentially, we're shifting it. We're applying two different things to it. One is that we're making the beads window so that what we mean by that is the time when Naja hits a god before they're carried into the air. We're increasing that slightly. That's going to allow for players to react to it. We did already do this once, but we've still essentially been reported, especially even by pro players, that say when you get hit by this at point blank range, it's virtually humanly impossible to beads it. So we're making that more doable, but then we're also giving the Naja player a bonus for firing their ultimate. Now, Pon, you could probably talk a little bit more here about this final protections buff.
Yeah, so this is when you land. So this is in the situation where like it immediately gets canceled
up in the air.
Yep, right. But the goal here is that when you actually are successful in that case, often you're just going to land and immediately die. Assassin players who aren't building protections, they're going to get a lot more leverage out of this protection to survive. Whereas if they ult and someone beats it, they have Sash at their disposal. They have the new power scaling stim to heal themselves up to try and survive those situations. So they have some toolkits, but when they they don't really have a way to react upon landing. And support Naja players didn't really need this in the first place, and they can't really leverage the protections as well as potentially an assassin Naja player can. And that's the goal of a lot of these shifts, is really making it so that when you build power, when you build a bit more ability focused, you're going to be able to use all those parts of your kit a lot better. Okay. And you get help where you need to make sure that you can actually be aggressive.
Just for clarity, if you fire Naja's ultimate and miss or it gets cleansed, you will not get the protections buff. You have to go up into the air and then kill someone or do the whole thing and then come down to get that.
Correct.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, then let's move right along to Raijin up next. Going to be seeing some buffs here as well. Percussive Storm, we're going to be decreasing the cooldown. Same thing with Raiju. And then Thunder Crash, we're going to be increasing the scaling on lightning and thunder damage from 20% to 30%.
Yep. So Raijin getting some adjustments here. Raijin's been one of those characters that there's a bit of history that kind of kept Raiju and Thunder Crash having low damage and higher cooldowns, in that he used to be able to really like wombo combo you really quickly with those two abilities in tandem. We've done a lot of adjustments since then. So Raiju getting the decreased cooldown for help clear and more aggressive poke, as well as Thunder Crash getting a bit more offensive capability, we feel pretty safe doing. And then finally Percussive Storm, just more access more often to his primary wave clear, helps him compete with other mages in the laning phase.
All right. Next up, we've got Rama. So this is similar to Hachiman. We got these in alphabetical order, but we could have grouped it with Hachiman up there. Same thing. We're going to be fixing an issue where Rama could fire abilities after exiting his ultimate a little bit earlier than intended.
So this is essentially a pretty sizable nerf to Rama, because people already use this effect. This one gets used even more than Hachiman. Rama, after landing from his ultimate, can escape things really quickly. This isn't a big amount of time we're adding to this, but we just want to make sure that Rama looks like he actually lands and the character animates and then can roll and dash properly. Because right now, or before this change, you're able to dash so quickly that Rama doesn't really do his animations intentionally. So this is being slowed down. This could potentially be a big nerf, but the god has been performing very well for most of the year. So we're not too worried about it, and it is just something that we think needs to get fixed.
All right. And then last up for gods, guys, we're almost through. Soul, going to be seeing a buff here. Unstable Manifestation, we're going to be increasing the attack speed. And then Stellar Burst, increasing the damage.
Yep, similar to Chronos, another mage EDC we're really keeping our eye on with all the especially Hecate ring mainly. And after things kind of settled, they were still underperforming compared to their other mage EDC counterparts. And so we feel pretty safe now bringing them up more into line, boost the passive strength, and boost a Stellar Burst to her primary clear.
All right. Well, that is it, guys. That is Season 8 balance for 8.1. We did it. We got through it so much, but we've still got a ton more to go over, which is crazy. So you guys have been talking for a long time. We got some community news. You guys can take a break, and I'll break all this stuff down. So first up, voting for the 2021 Olympians Player Council is live right now. We've been bringing this program back. It's been such a huge benefit to us, and we've had such a pleasure working with all of the Olympians that we've had over the past 2 seasons, and we are super excited to bring the program back again. Head over to smitegame.com/Olympians, get in your vote. I believe voting is going to be live just for a week, so be sure to check out all the applicants there. Definitely going to be a good time. We've got lots of great people on that list that are super deserving. Next up, the TMNT Battle Pass. It's going away in just a couple of weeks. So if you guys want to get radical on the battleground, play with Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, be sure to pick up the Battle Pass and level it up. You've still got a couple of weeks to get all those amazing skins. This crossover was super awesome, and I have definitely had a ton of fun playing with the turtles on the battleground. Next up, it is SWC week, but that means SWC weekend is tomorrow, guys. We've got the SMITE World Championships. The top 8 bracket is going to play out this weekend, and we will crown a new champion, a new king team of the battleground. So be sure to tune in, watch, interact, and chat. We've got tons of drops for you guys that you can get if you're watching on Twitch. Be sure to link your Hi-Rez and Twitch accounts to get tons of goodies. It's going to be an amazing time. So much Smite content and esports this weekend, so be sure to tune in. And a couple more things. We've got a lot of sales because it's SWC, so we got a celebrating game with a lot of sales. So gems are on sale right now. You can get the digital loot pack for 33% off, tons of chests, and a whole lot more. And then last thing for SWC weekend, we're bringing back the For Fans by Fans Fan Forge contest. So if you're an artist or a content creator and you want to make all sorts of official supported Smite swag and make a little money on the side, you can do that. Submissions are going to open in January, and the winners of the Smite World Championship are actually going to be choosing the finalists for that. So it's going to be super exciting and a great opportunity for all of our artists and creators to make some official Smite swag. But that wraps it up for all of my community news, guys. You guys have one more big thing that you want to talk about. Matchmaking and ranked updates in Season 8. Matchmaking. A little bit. Ranked and matchmaking kind of go hand in hand, but I will defer to you guys on what's going to be happening for ranked in Season 8.
I'll kick this off, Pon, and then you can explain what's going to happen. So we have been listening to our players about matchmaking as best we can. It's a very complicated situation. You can check out any online game anywhere in the world. People are always wondering about matchmaking. How can you improve it? What's going wrong? What's going right? It's just a difficult problem to solve. It can heavily scale based on region, based on player preference, based on just how you're feeling that day. There's a lot going on. So we're going to get into some more specific ranked changes, and Pon's going to be explaining what we're going to be doing differently about our ranked system. But I want to reassure players that even though you don't see it on this list, we are looking at our core matchmaking systems. We are finding more ways to track data, and we are open to change. And we're going to keep that as a key priority this year. In the short term, what we can do right now is we can adjust the ranked system, the ranked progression, the MMR system, adjust those in ways that players have very clearly told us through their feedback that they would like us to implement. This has a lot of interesting mathematic implications, so we're going to be watching closely, but we think we found the combination of changes that our players will be the most excited about for ranked. So Pon, why don't you go ahead and tell them these changes that we have planned?
Yeah, so the big thing that we've heard from the community is largely around what happens when a new player enters the rank system. They could be at 1500, and let's say they play their first match, someone DCs on their team. They play their second match, and their jungler really carries that game. Well, they've won 2 games, and now their MMR has really, really spiked, potentially like 1900. But we really haven't verified that they are potentially at that level. That kind of speed creates some situations where some players can get perceptively lucky at the start. And so one thing we want to do is kind of mitigate that factor. So now at the for this rank season, we're actually going to be removing variance. Players are going to have a set amount of base MMR that's expected to be adjusted each game. And the only adjustment about how MMR is going to go up and down is going to be based off how even that match was when the matchmaker made it. So there's going to be smaller adjustments, but you can expect much more. Yeah, you can expect much more consistent MMR gains and losses every single match from the first game you play of ranked to the 100th game of ranked that you play.
No more
the
variance.
Other
Chat, cheer with me. No more variance.
No more variance.
I see Twitter is cheering right now.
It will be for sure.
Yep. And the second big thing that we're doing to make sure that this feels good, especially in other modes, is we're actually going to be capping how much and how little you can get in MMR to make sure that in situations where the matchmaker does feel like it was really lopsided, potentially maybe like at like 2 a.m. on a work day in a region in a queue that has lower people in, and the only people that decided to queue up were the best and worst players in that match.
Shout out to my high-end Joust players, okay?
Yeah, we have situations to try and deal with those situations, but sometimes there's only so many people in the queue. In those situations, we actually have a min and max that can be applied there to make sure that you're not going to all of a sudden be only gaining 1 point for a really long time and then suddenly losing hundreds. That's going to be capped to make it more reasonable. So that's like the big matchmaking changes.
Yeah,
the other thing that we're doing with this
at a minimum and a maximum.
Yep, which will help a lot with a lot of the major concerns that we've heard. The other big thing that we're doing is that TP and MMR, the way that we're going to be doing that this season is we're actually going to hard reset everyone. If everyone's been kind of match made differently and is going to get a whole bunch of hard reset. It's one of those rare occurrences that happens. If people are going to be matched differently and going to rise and fall at a slower rate than before, we want to make sure that people who earned a really high ranking or got a very low ranking aren't stuck there artificially. We want to make sure everyone has an even footing to prove themselves at the start of the season. As well as we actually have some exciting news about ranked awards, which is that they're going to be actually immediately available and unlockable with 8.1. So you can actually start out the rank season rather than having to wait to the end of the season to get those awards. They're going to be available in 8.1. You can get them immediately. Just go play ranked.
So right
For
now
sure.
we're going to show you the season 7 ranked reward skin and the season 8 ranked reward skin. The season
I know,
7,
right?
everyone who met the requirements will get when when 8-1 goes live. But then as soon as you play enough matches, win enough matches in season 8, you will be able to unlock the new skin as well, which could be potentially, that same update if you really
For
grind like
sure.
that's crazy amount of grinding. But people will do it probably.
Oh, most definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start talking about these ranked rewards. So, like you said, let's do the season 7 ranked reward. So, everything that you've been playing towards this past year, it is going to be Midgardian Macaque. I hope I pronounced that right. Hoon
Yep.
Bats. And this one is super awesome. And I got to give a shout out to my guy, Raging Cajun from the community, for providing the concept for this one. This card is awesome.
I love the style we see here. It's really cool.
Yeah, I know. I know, AJ, you're a big fan of the Pantheon Shift skins, and this is kind of taking Bats from the Mayan realm and making him a Norse warrior, which
Yeah,
is awesome.
and this is also so Raging Cajun, a community artist, did this skin, and we contracted the art from him. But I believe he also was heavily advised by Duke Sloth on the creation of this skin because he was trying to get
Oh,
some
that's
feedback from
awesome. You gotta
content
love the
creators and
collabs
stuff like
here.
that.
This was awesome, and the model turns out really awesome. I love kind of like the white fur and
Runes.
the hammer. Yeah, the runes are sick too. This one turned out great. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I gotta make sure I got my ranked wins going on. But let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for this one.
And a battle approaches. Today, I will show all what honor means.
Oh, I love that. That one turned out super awesome. That is your season 7 ranked reward, Midgardian Macaque Hoonbat. But let's talk about the season 8 ranked reward. And this one has been, floating around in the community for a long time. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of suggestions for this one. This is going to be Crash Test Yanis. And this one
Yes.
is so awesome. The card art is great. I just love
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Shout out
You
to
got the-
Racer.
That's hilarious. You got Apollo in the background. You've got the racers references there. This is awesome. And I love like the portal kind of shatter effect with in the card art as well. This one turned out super sick, and I can't wait to see the model in game here, as we'll have a turnaround in just a second to give you guys an idea. Oh, this one is so good.
And
I
he's
love
wearing a
it.
helmet, so his faces can change, and his head rotates out from a different types of silly mannequin faces, which is hilarious.
Oh, that's amazing. This one is super awesome. Your season 8 ranked reward. Let's go ahead and listen to the voice pack for Crash Test Giannis.
Combat against godlike beings is not part of my design specifications. I will try to do my best.
He knows he's gonna get beat
we
up.
ask of you. I know, right? He just knows. Well, that's all we can ask of you is to do your best, just like you guys, grinding out those rank queues in season 8. Always do your best. All right, and then we've got the season 7 commendation reward that we want to show off to you guys. So if you guys have been awesome and super positive figures in Smite, and you haven't gotten any account level suspicions or bans, you'll be able to unlock Pure Heart Ganesh when 8.1 goes live for free. And I love these. I love how we always make them so clean and white. And Pon, what do you think of this one? This one looks great.
Oh, this one's so cute. Like, look at the chicks. That's awesome. I love these color schemes. Like, they're really cool on these characters.
I know, right? This one is great. I can't wait to look at the model here because the white and golds, that's just such a classic color combination. Oh, this one turned out amazing. What do you think, AJ?
What better symbolizes the altruistically good Smite player than a Ganesh main? Like, this is the true support in the game, and I think it just fits the commendation reward great.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely looking forward to this one in 8.1 when this goes live. No voice pack on this one. It's just going to be an awesome, sweet recolor for you guys to get. And that wraps it up for all of the kind of new balance features, rank, conquest map stuff. But we do want to give you guys a quick little early look and talk about some of the things that we're planning for season 8. We've got a huge roadmap that has a bunch of details and patch notes if you guys want to check it out. But I do want to take some time with AJ and Pine to just kind of hit the high level things. So we'll start with item reworks. We've got Mail of Renewal, Stone of Fall, and just an item effects pass overall. AJ, do you want to kind of just go through all of these individually and talk about what we're thinking about?
Yeah, so that was the 8-1, update notes we just did, but
Yes.
the rest of season 8 has a lot still coming. So these are the things you're gonna see in future season 8 updates. The first of which is new items. So we did this really big starter item change, which actually introduced a whole lot of new items to the game, but it didn't do a
48.
lot to add new items to other trees or to rework any items in other trees, like the traditional tier 3 items. So we wanted to make sure we still had a few of those that are high priority, specifically Mail of Renewal and Stone of Fall. Those have item reworks coming soon in the next couple of updates. And we're also going to be doing a close pass on our item visual effects. We want to make sure that items have a reasonable level of visual effects to match their effects, and to match that they are make sure that they're not overriding any sort of god clarity. So we're just going to do another pass on that. We have a few specific items we look at we want to tone down versus toning up some others, which should be a nice thing to help everybody understand what's going on in the battleground.
For sure. And then next up, we got remodels. Not one, but at least two coming your guys' way in season 8. And we're going to kick things off with everybody's favorite croc. Sobek is going to be getting a god remodel this season. I know,
I'm a
right?
huge
Let's
Sobek
go.
main. Sobek is confirmed the next god getting a remodel. When you go read this patch notes and read the roadmap, a lot of things are phrased like this. We're committed to at least one more remodel in season 8. Now that means we're definitely going to do 2 remodels, so Sobek and one more. Possibly we could do 3. Hard to say right now, but we know we're doing those. Ares and Isis this year were absolutely beautiful, and players were so happy about it. So we wanted to just make sure we kept that ball rolling. And honestly, as a big Sobek main, it looks badass, and I just can't wait for everyone to see it.
Definitely. And then another thing that we see in the community all the time, we're going to be paying careful attention and making sure we show some love to some gods who haven't gotten skins in a long time. So people like Cerberus, Baron, Serket, Erling Shin, who's getting a skin we're going to talk about in just a little bit, Bamada, Jean Kui, lots of gods who haven't gotten skins in a long time are going to be getting some love this season.
Yeah, so you can check out the patch notes. I put the very specifically who's getting a skin and who hasn't gotten a skin that is getting one, and I listed as many as I possibly could, and I tried to be as clear as possible about which ones we are already working on, or already making progress on, or already definitely happening, versus ones that we're still discussing. But we're really working hard to make sure that most of those gods that didn't get skin last year are gonna get it for sure this year.
Most definitely. All right, let's move on to events and modes. So Conquest got an awesome new, amazing, beautiful new map in 8.1, but we are also committed to at least one more map update this season, right, AJ?
Yeah, so not just the Conquest update, not just the new map of Conquest, not just the new living Conquest plan with more Conquest updates throughout the year, but we are also already working on one other non-Conquest map update. I can't get into too much specifics on what size or scope that map changes, but just know that we are working on some of those non-Conquest maps as well, and you can expect to see those throughout the year.
Most definitely. So much going on in season 8. And one thing that you guys have been asking for a long time now, the return of clans coming back in season 8. Now we're going to do this in kind of 2 phases here, AJ. So talk to me about clans and what's going to happen with them.
Clans are, a tricky system for us. That's why we had all the issues this year. We had a lot of core architecture that we wanted to change with clans. We had to bring them down entirely. We want to bring them back, but we're going to bring them back in 2 phases. The first one is essentially going to be the essential functions only. We're really having to pretty much build these back from scratch because we had some core issues that we had to fix, and that was the only way to do them. So you're going to see clans return in early season 8. Well, not necessarily too early, sometime in between now and mid-season, where clans will return and you'll have the basic functionality to be able to create clans, talk to your clanmates, have a clan tag, etc. But then we are planning for further in the future, for late in season 8 or even early of season 9, where we want to make sure that clans has new UI, new features, and a new reward system. People want to be rewarded for playing with their friends, and they want to be rewarded for playing with a group of people at a consistent level, right? So that's something we're looking into doing further down the road.
All right, and then last up for the Season 8 roadmap, we've got a lot of UI updates planned. So we're going to be looking at things like the Esports and Live Streams HUD, the purchasing experience in the store, the in-match experience, things like the item shop and the in-game HUD, which I know people have been asking for a long time, ranked
Right.
UI, and plus many just smaller miscellaneous, just quality of life updates. We're always looking for ways to improve the UI. Tons and tons going on here.
Right. The esports and live stream viewer store updates are all going to definitely happen in 8.2. We also have some updates to the purchasing experience. That's coming soon, shortly after. Our biggest priority for our bigger item throughout the whole year is the in-game HUD and item shop update. Don't have a specific timing on that yet, but that is going to be the main UI, almost like overhaul level change that we're doing for the year. That is our top priority, and that's what we're going to be looking at for the mid-season, so maybe towards the later half of the year, as well as just a whole lot of smaller things. The Olympians are always suggesting quality of life features to us to adjust, add little things to different systems throughout the game, and we're going to try to commit to a consistent level of shipping those. If you go back and look at the patch notes for the last few updates at the end of Season 7, you'll see that we have a few of these items on every update, and we want to maintain that even around some of these bigger changes. We want to continue to maintain constantly improving with smaller updates. And Isaiah, there is one more thing on this roadmap that I wanted to talk about that maybe is not on your notes, but
Most definitely.
people
Take it away.
deserve to know about God Reworks.
Reworks. For sure. Yeah.
And we are willing to talk about 2 right now with it, and we're willing to say that at least 2 more are currently being planned but not guaranteed yet. The first of which is a pretty big one that Pon is gonna be leading up. And why don't you tell us a little bit about, don't give away too much Pon, but the core goals for Persephone's rework in early Season 8.
Yep. So Persephone has a lot of things going on that give her very high variance. For example, at top level play, no one ever really gets hit by the plants. At lower level play, plants can be very effective. There's a few things around our kit that create moments where there's a lot of very high power that's easy to confirm, and a lot of power that's just hidden behind a lot of difficulty. And so we want to do some changes to Persephone to make it so that when you play against her, you're going to feel less frustration fighting against her. Her power is more evenly spread throughout her kit, and is more consistently accessible. And that's really what we want to focus on, is just making sure that the play experience as and play experience against is just a much more even level playing field. While you still have moments of expression, you can do some really fancy things with the core identity Persephone, which is that kind of plant harvesting mechanic.
Awesome, thank you. And that's going to be a pretty big rework. We're going to be seeing big functionality changes to multiple abilities there. I don't know if I'd say any of the abilities are completely new, but there are a lot of big changes, right. or at least one ability is going to feel pretty completely new.
Correct. Sure.
The other rework we are already working on is Bastet. I want to, level with the audience here. We didn't quite get the results we wanted to out of the last Bastet rework. We've done this type of thing before. Reworks are really hard. We set some really specific criteria for us to meet. You're trying to make the best of both worlds, not losing anything, not taking anything away, but still fixing all these issues and keeping core play styles. It's a lot to worry about. The Bastet rework we did this year did make her very strong in high rank conquest. She became actually statistically much stronger there, but a lot of other people just felt like she wasn't that exciting. They didn't feel like there was a lot of cool, interesting interactions with her new ultimate. The ability stem kind of idea was not as exciting to the players as we were excited about it internally, honestly. So we are looking into giving her another new passive and new ultimate and an ultimate that feels actually like a real ultimate ability. That'll be coming after Persephone, sometime before mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, guys, there was a ton to go over in 8.1. There's a ton to come in Season 8. There's so much exciting stuff to look forward to SMITE in 2021. It's going to be absolutely amazing, but we still have a ton of amazing skins that we want to show off to you guys too. We're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Your world is flawed, broken, tainted by the dreamer. What have your gods promised you? Peace? Free will? Your gods have deceived you. Their lies become half-truths. Half-truths become beliefs. I will create a world without deception, without duplicity. A world of absolute truth. Arise, my children. I will cleanse this land in my own image. You believe in gods that made your world a battleground. Witness the might of a true god!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Season 8 update show. We just went over a ton and a ton and a ton of balance, features, ranked rewards, all sorts of good stuff coming you guys' way in 8.1. But we also have a whole lot of awesome new skins and a new battle pass to show you guys. So I still got Pon with me, but to help me kind of bring things home, I've got the one and only Titan Tina here to go over things. Tina, how you doing today?
Awesome. Thank you for asking.
All right. You guys ready to get into it? We got lots of awesome skins to go over. All right, let's do it. Let's kick it off with our brand new battle pass coming in 8.1, most wanted battle pass. And this one is awesome. I was taking a look at the theme, and this is just a bunch of badass chicks robbing some people, and it's super dope. So we're going to start it off with Bunny Bomber Aphrodite going to be in the battle pass this time around. Tina, what do you think of this one? She is ready for the heist.
Yeah, she's really cool. So her bombs, you'll see, they're bunny shaped, which is the coolest part about it. Yeah, and her personality is pretty funny too. She's pretty cute. I'm very excited.
This one is definitely sick. And there we go, taking a look at the model here. I'm loving her style and the colors. And when you think of robbery and heist, you think of the blacks and grays. I really like how the art team took kind of a more vibrant approach, and we've got some pinks and blues, and it's a lot brighter, and it looks like they're just having a lot of fun, just robbing people and stealing folks. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Bunny Bomber Aphrodite.
I usually fly solo, but I'm excited to team up and kick some butt again.
All right, let's go. Speaking of teaming up, she's got the squad with her. Next up, we've got Breaker Kali going to be doing in the most wanted battle pass, doing lots of heists along Aphrodite here. And this one is sick. I love the fact that she's got the robo arms. Pon, what do you think of this one?
Oh my gosh, I just love that the extra robo arms are used for guns, so she get to use her swords as well. That's just cool looking. That's so awesome. I know.
It's sick. Normally you would think, you put the swords in the robo arms because you don't have to aim or anything. Yeah. But she wants the sword. She wants the hand-to-hand combat herself. And this one looks sleek. The model is so dope. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, she's half-seas. I thought it was all robot arms, but I guess you're right. It's half robot.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like an augmented backpack.
Yeah, this one is super sick, and I'm loving the details and the guns and the weapons and the cyber arms here. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for this one.
Okay, you know the plan. Get in, go to work, get out. A nice, clean win.
There you go. Also got to give a quick shout out to Noah on the audio team. I've heard the sound effects on this one are super sick, so whenever you guys are testing this out in PTS, be sure to pay attention. Next up for the most wanted battle pass, we've got Mastermind Yamoja, and this one is awesome. This is probably my favorite card art of the patch. I love the fact that we took the camera's point of view, and she's just like, hey, just be quiet. Don't worry about this. It's all good.
Yeah. I guess they all have different personalities. So she's the mastermind, and then Kali is the tactician, the guns blazing, and then Afro is the cute, smart one who builds bombs and shit. She's,
For sure.
Yeah, I like them. They fit. Yeah, they're all together.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's good, since they're a team, everybody's got, everything different that they bring to the table here. And we're taking a look at the model here. This one looks sick. I love the kind of cape, the half cape, and some of the textures that are going on this one. Pon, what do you think?
Yeah. It's incredible to see how the art team, especially they have all these clothing of similar veins, so you can tell they're connected to each other, but all the clothing styles are different and have different styles to them that just accentuate the character. That's just so cool.
Most definitely. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Mastermind Yamoja.
I've mapped all the wards, covered all the angles, and crunched the numbers. This score is ours.
There you go. So this one is going to be in the most wanted battle pass as well. But we got to introduce the final member of the team, the battle pass recolor coming in 8-1. This is Heist Blade Pele, a recolor of one of the past Pele skins. I love this one. This is one of my favorites. And the white, this one is sick on the lightning. This one is super dope.
The color is really good. The color choices are really good. Yeah, the other one's purple, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the other one is like purple and black.
Yeah, I like blues and white. It's like that color combination is really sweet.
Yeah, the gold hints are definitely doing it for me. This one is super sick. Oh, it looks even better in game.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is super dope. I'm loving the vibes here. And you can't go wrong with an assassin with a hood on. Like, she's ready to go in and get out. No voice pack for this one, as it is our Battle Pass recolor. But that is a wrap for the most wanted Battle Pass. And as you guys can see, Battle Passes are coming back in Season 8, going to work just like they did in Season 7. So you guys will be able to pick this up and grind your way through the levels to unlock a bunch of awesome content. But we've got a new Babylonian-themed Conquest map, which means we got to have a new badass Babylonian-themed event to go along with it, right? We've got the Dawn of Babylon event coming in 8-1. Tina, you want to give me just a quick TLDR of what's going on in this event?
Clearly she
I'm
does.
sorry, I was not ready for that question. Like,
I'm sorry.
Oh my god. I don't know what you guys talked about earlier in this patch. So
Yeah, we just talked
Nothing.
about the Conquest map.
I
can give you the TLDR. I know we've got 4 bundles available, and they're going to be available. And if you get 2 bundles, you get an Erlang Shin skin.
Okay.
And if you get
So
4,
I'm
you
allowed
get
to
a
talk
new
about that
skin.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so it's Babylonian themed. Don't fire me. I can say that, right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yay, Tiamat! Yay!
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay,
They've
so,
seen the full cinematic at this point.
Right?
Okay. Don't cut me out. I'm sorry. Was not prepared. So it's a great event, Dawn of Babylon. You buy bundles, and if you buy the first 2 bundles, you get the cool Regal Warrior Erlang Shen skin, and if you buy all 4 bundles, you get the this cool Nuwa skin that's like battleships and shit. It's great. She's got like guns blazing and ship stuff around her waist, and it's just cool and nautical.
Nautical.
How did I
indeed.
do?
We're going
How
to take a
did I
look
do?
at that and get. I think you did amazing, Tina, as always. So let's go ahead and look at some of these skins that are coming in the Dawn of Babylon event. First up, we've got Experimental Baba Yaga. This one is super awesome. She's just a crazy scientist. Look at those goggles. Oh my
God, look at those
goodness.
teeth. Look at that
I know.
potato. Oh my God, that spud.
Oh my goodness! The more I look at this card art, the more that I see I didn't even realize she's got a mechanical arm. Like her right arm is just completely mechanical. It's crazy, and I'm loving the purple essence. You can tell that she's channeling something, and that I guess that's the house in the background.
Yeah, it's definitely the house in the back has the face and the eyes and everything.
Oh my goodness!
The potato is what I think is giving energy to her brain.
Yes, that's probably what it is.
She is
so we'll be able to go
potato
and
run.
Potato.
Oh my
run.
gosh, that's so good.
Oh, her eyes they look
Her
like they're
eyes
popping
are
out
the
of her
best.
skull. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so good.
And I love
Someone
the
has to
cauldron,
cosplay
dude.
this, dude.
Yeah.
If someone cosplays this, oh my God, it's so good.
Oh my goodness, it's so sick. This one turned out amazing. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Experimental Baba Yaga.
I'm sorry I'm saying this, but I really love how saggy her boobs are. Like, I love that about Baba Yaga because it's so true, you know, like old women don't have perky boobs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, continue.
Hey, nature runs its course for everybody. Let's take a listen to the voice pack.
Experiments are the only thing keeping me sane these days. Who am I kidding?
God, she's so
This
nutty.
is great.
So
Yeah,
good.
that voice actor, she killed it. That's amazing. All right, next up for the Dawn of Babylon event, we've got Walking Blight Ymir. And this one is awesome. He is just a super creepy blight creature in an ancient forest. That one is sick. Oh my God.
Man.
Yeah.
Dude, those are Arthurian soldiers? Those are
Yeah.
Arthurian
Oh my, yeah,
soldiers.
they are. You can see the Camelot sign on the shield.
Oh, yeah.
Destroyed.
Yeah, that is. I feel sorry for whoever Amir's just got his grip on there. That is just unfortunate.
His head is 2 axes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that. And one of
He
them
can
is just like,
slice you left and right, dude, just by moving his head like
I
sideways.
know, right? He's just gonna say
His
no and
skull's
just like
embedded
shake
in
his
his
head. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at the effects there on the inside there. This one is sick. And he's got like the skulls embedded in his shoulders and stuff. Yeah, this is definitely creepy. I do not want to see this walking at me down the duo lane.
Nope.
It's like he ate humans and they just stayed in his body.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Like I said earlier, I definitely don't want to be on the opposite side of walking Blight Ymir. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack.
I feel their energy, their weakness.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
God.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
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 Yeah,
nope,
that's a no for me, dog. This one is crazy. All right, next up, this is going to be the reward skin. So if you buy 2 bundles in the Dawn of Babylon event, you'll be able to get Regal Warrior Erlang Shin. And this one is super awesome. Like we were talking about earlier, Erlang hasn't gotten a skin in a while, and this one is super clean.
It is
Puppy.
super clean. I know the dog has armor, dude.
That is sick.
Doggo.
Oh my
I can't
goodness.
get over the dog.
Yeah,
the dog's
it's the dog
best.
for me.
That's so
I'm loving
good.
just the
That whole
setting here
skin's
too. Oh, the armor
Wow.
looks so
Yeah,
sick.
the dog. It looks really good.
Oh, look at the
That
little
looks
doggy.
incredible.
Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
A+.
This one turned out, S+ on this one. This one turned out amazing.
I
Super
love how
sick
bright
here.
the colors
super
are.
clean.
It's
Yeah, I
very
know.
bright.
It's awesome.
I
Yeah,
love the
this is
contrast
sick.
with the white and the gold. Good job, everybody.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for this one.
I see our destiny laid out before us. Today we will triumph.
There we go. That is
I
Regal
did not
Warrior
know
Erlang
that
Skin.
he came with a new voice pack.
You
Good to
didn't.
know.
See, the more you know.
I know.
This one's awesome. All right, let's go ahead and look at the final reward for Dawn of Babylon event. So like all of our events that we've been doing in the past, you'll be able to buy all. And if you do, you'll unlock the final reward when the event starts. And the final reward of this event is Battleship Heaven Nuwa. And like Tina was saying earlier, just super nautical. And I am loving the hat. She's got the swag. This one is sick.
Yeah. Look at those
I remember
guns
seeing the
blazing. Like I
concept.
said. Sorry.
I remember seeing the concept of this. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're really doing this, and it's like this
Right?
is just so cool.
I
You
know,
never
right?
expect
Looks
a
like
battleship armor like armament around you.
Yeah, this is
Dude.
like straight up out of an anime or something. It's
We
dope.
should make a tier 5 where women
Oh.
just transform into the boat. Like she just becomes the boat. You know, like how cool would that
Oh
be?
my goodness. She's just the final boss. So we're gonna go in game and take a look at all of this awesome stuff. But before we do, let's take a listen to the voice pack.
Prepare for battle.
There we go. She is
Prepare.
prepared for battle.
Yeah.
Pon
prepare.
Pon, our loyal driver, is prepared as well. And we're gonna take a look at some of these awesome new effects. So show us off what we got here. Oh, I'm loving the water.
Are those fish? Wait, what's going on? Oh, no,
she
it's
does
her.
some like boats with anchor.
Holy shit! Oh my
Oh
god,
my
there's
goodness.
boatmen!
That's too cool.
Wait,
That is
I want to
nuts.
see them more. I want to see them more clearly. Actually, do they have boat faces? Oh no, they're turrets.
Oh, yeah, the turrets. Oh, that is sick. I love like the
What
little
a-
Oh my
missiles. It's
gosh.
kind of like the 5 crystals.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's too good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I just love like the battleship armament that's just constantly floating around here too. That one looks sick.
Yeah.
All right, and then I've got a note from the animation team, an all new ultimate animation for this one.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
This
that
is-
is sick!
Oh,
Oh my
cool.
gosh.
That is
Yo, that is
awesome.
At
so
first, I thought
dope.
you were actually going to turn into a ship, and then this
Nope,
is
she
cooler.
just fires the salute and just rains down the missiles. That is so dope.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness, that's my new favorite new
Yo.
Oscar. That is sick. Definitely a worthy
Holy
reward
crap.
for the Dawn of Babylon event.
And that salute
I know, right? It's sick. Definitely looking forward to this when it comes out next patch.
It's like a salute to your death.
I know, right?
Got him.
Got him. Well, that is Battleship Heaven Noir, the final reward in Dawn of Babylon event. Like I said earlier, if you get all 4 bundles in the event, you unlock that skin for free. Let's move along, and we're getting close to the season of love, guys. We've got the Valentine's chest coming up next.
That's right.
And we've got the first skin showing up here, Midnight Glamour Neath. And first of all, this card art is just absolutely gorgeous, but you guys might recognize a familiar meme in the background if you pay attention and take a close look.
Too good.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Get it. Nice,
Yeah,
dude.
the distracted boyfriend and the girlfriend,
Yep.
like, hey, what are you looking at? But
What are you
Neath is
looking at?
definitely,
Oh,
yeah, Neath is feeling like Fergie, glamorous in this one.
hell yeah.
Definitely looking forward to seeing how this dress turns out in game. Taking a look at the
Oh,
model. There we go.
dude, she looks so good.
This one is sick. I love the bow too.
I love her face.
Yeah, that bow's awesome.
Yeah, this one turned out awesome. I just love the sleek, just evening wear nightgown dress. This one is super sick. Looking forward to this one in the Valentine's chest. Let's go ahead and
Yo,
take a
that
listen to
side
this
boob.
back. Oh my
Oh
god.
man, I love it so much, dude. It's so good. I'll play this skin forever.
Let's take a listen to the voice pack for Midnight Glamour Neath.
Neath, the Weaver of Love, has arrived. Who's ready for some matchmaking?
God, she's thirsty. Oh,
Yeah. Tina is definitely ready for some
I didn't
matchmaking.
even write this voice pack.
Yeah.
I wrote that one.
Oh shit, Con!
Yeah.
Nice.
So
You're
we
probably
have
like,
Hans
how can
right here.
I write thirsty? Google. How
Yeah,
to
I know,
write
right?
thirsty quotes. How to
Oh,
write
man.
thirst.
Definitely one of the more interesting ones to write.
Yeah, I know, right? Luckily, you're not on your work computer.
love
You're
that
at
one.
home, so you don't have to worry about those Google searches. We've got next up, Princess Sleepyhead Kumbhakarna, which is going to be hilarious. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my god,
Kumbha has
dude.
just turned out to be just a
We broke the
sleepyhead.
internet.
We did. We
Look
broke
at
the
the bird.
What bird?
Oh, look
Where?
at the little bird
Oh,
in
the
the
bottom right.
foreground there. The little teeny flower. I'm loving this card art here.
Aw.
Look at the knight. The knight just come up. He's like, "Oh, I did not expect this princess to look like this." Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Well, let's go ahead and we'll go in game and show the turnaround in the model here in a second. But I'm sure it looks just as fantastic as this card. Oh my gosh!
Holy-
I believe this
Oh
is the
my
VXG.
gosh.
This skin has a
This
VXG.
is the VXG?
Yes.
Dude, does she sleep on it? Like, does she
It's-
lie down on it?
Yeah. The staff is a pillow, like a bed. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is so good.
I love how the ponytail just goes into the handlebar mustache, and you just see the
Wait, what?
tusks underneath. Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. You'll see it as we go back around and see his face, but it's just like the handlebar mustache with the tusks underneath. It's hilarious.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my god. Oh my goodness. This skin is absolutely hilarious. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Princess Sleepyhead Kumbhakarna.
Do we really have to leave the tower, Budgie? Can't we sleep just a little longer?
Too good.
Oh my goodness. This
Oh,
one
so good.
is super great. But we've got one more skin that we definitely want to show off to you guys, and it is our Season Pass 2021 skin going to be featured in this bundle. We're bringing back the Season Pass. It's going to work just like it did last season, where it's a bundle, $39.99. You'll get an awesome skin, 1,000 gems, a title, a loading screen, plus all the gods of the season and their emotes and voice packs and all that good stuff. Oh, and their recolors and a new recolor. There's just so much in the Season Pass to pass up. But
So
we
much.
have got Grand Magus Anubis going to be featured in this year's Season Pass, and we're
Oh,
gonna
he's
go
so
in game and
hot.
show it off here in a little bit. But yes, he is looking sick. I'm loving this.
This is the one with the open chestness, right? Like, this is the
Yes.
one where it's exposed. Oh, yes. Yes. Let's see it.
My goodness, yes. So I'm loving here. I love how we've still got the Egyptian vibes, even though we've kind of made him a human here with some armor. But we'll take a look at the model, and we're gonna go in game and show this one off as well, because all the effects are super sick. Yo, this one is so dope. Oh,
Whoa.
this one is absolutely amazing. I
Oh
always
my
love
gosh.
how we
Look
add
at
the
the
particle details in the fabric.
Yes, the fabric.
that material work is awesome.
I know.
I think
And that
I love
AJ
his
is
helmet is
gonna
helmet
play
too.
this all the time.
yes, this is sick. Yeah, this is definitely AJ's new favorite skin. He is
Yep.
insta-locking Anubis and locking this one in. But before we go in game, let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Grand Magus Anubis.
All my work, all my preparation has led to this moment.
There we go, and we'll get a chance to see what all of
Holy
his work
moly.
and preparation has yielded to in game as we see all of his magic and abilities. Basics looking clean. I love the blues. Lots of white and gold and blue skins in this patch. I'm digging it. Oh, that one's sick. Got the wrap.
Oh man, those hands are creepy.
Oh, yeah, they are. That is definitely sick. All right, I'm ready for the ultimate. Nice.
That energy around it is really cool looking.
I know, that's
Mhm.
sick. I love the like the little auras and like the signs in the aura on the ground there. It looks sick, and I'm loving
Would you
the
say that
particle
is
effect. on
arcane?
Steam. Yeah. Oh yes, new recall animation for this skin, and I believe this skin actually has new victory and defeat screen animations as well.
What?
That's so good.
Yeah,
I love
that's
the
sick.
effects on this skin.
Mm-hmm.
This one turned out absolutely amazing. I'm definitely picking up my season pass 2021 to get this one in. But guys, that is a wrap. Those are all the skins that we have to talk about today. Like I said earlier, tons and tons of stuff in season 8 to look forward to. It's been a long show, guys. Thanks so much for hanging in there and sticking with us and watching. We've got so much more to go this weekend with the Smite World Championships, and PTS should be live right now if you're on PC. So be sure download the client. But if you guys know me and know anything about me, you guys know I came from the console scene. So I am actually super happy to announce that for the first time ever for this special occasion, PTS is going to be available on Xbox and PS4. Be sure to stay tuned to
Yes.
Smite Game on social media for more instructions on how to download, on how to claim your key. We'll have a site that you can enter in your email address and you'll get a free key to download PTS on console to get testing on Season 8. There is so much to look forward to in this season, and we definitely are super excited to have our Xbox and PS4 fam test. But that's it for the show, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Titan Isaiah, Tina, Pon signing off. We will see you all this weekend for SWC.